Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this December 12th meeting of Ways and Means. Welcome to the last month of the year. Stand and join with me in reciting the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right. Do we have an approval of the agenda?
We have one update.
Oh, one update, okay.
Yes, item 7, the county treasurer to provide a foreclosure update.
All right. Okay, moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All righty. On to item 4, approval of the minutes for November 14th. All right, moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5, limited public comment. Oh, excuse me, yes, did we not vote? I'm running behind this morning. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written signify by saying aye. Aye. There we go. Now we're back on track. Thank you, Melissa. Now we are on to limited public comment. Anyone that would like to speak to the Ways and Means Committee, step to the podium, state your name and your address. All right, seeing none, there is one comment I'd like to make before we move on, and that is to tell Nicole Christensen, happy birthday, Nicole. Apparently, she's not ready to make a speech. All right, and I won't tell you who told me to say that. You probably don't know him anyway. I said I won't tell you who it was that told me to tell you that. All right, on to item number 6, committee appointments. We have well, let's just take it as it is. We have for the land bank, Eaton County Land Bank, correct?
Correct.
All right. Are there any candidates here that would like to speak to the committee? Come on up to the podium.
I'm Barbara Rogers from Hamlin Township. I have applied for this position. It's of great interest to me, and I feel qualified for the position, having been a level 2 property tax assessor, so I know how taxes are determined, and also having sold real estate for a number of years, it gives me another point of view. Does anyone have any questions of me?
I don't see any, Barb.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Good morning, Board. I'm Mike Baker. I've also applied for this position. I'm the former assessor for the City of Eaton Rapids. I'm currently on the Planning Commission there, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Being the fact that property has just been purchased in Eaton Rapids by the Land Bank, I'm curious to help move that property forward, and if I am appointed to the position, I think that I'll be able to help that move forward. Thank you.
Questions for the candidate? All right, pardon? Oh, I thought I heard somebody say something. All right, thank you. Commissioner Raynette.
Oh, it's treasurer.
Treasurer Raynette.
Quite all right.
It's only been a year, Darius.
Oh, I know. It's a very impactful year, though. Yes, hello.
Are there any more candidates that wish to speak before?
Actually, Kern Schlechter is one of the candidates, and he could not be here today. So he asked that I read his letter for him.
All right.
Again, this is Kern Schlechter. Dear Commissioners, I'm writing this letter to introduce myself and to seek your endorsement before the Eaton County Board of Commissioners in filling the vacancy of the Eaton County Land Bank. Today, I'm traveling to Agua Caliente in Mexico to attend a quinceañera for my adopted granddaughter, Sarah. Her family has become very dear to my family over the past 25 years. I regret I'm not able to present my appeal in person. Based on my education, experience, and local government service, I believe I am an ideal candidate to serve on the Eaton County Land Bank Board. As detailed in my attached qualification summary, and there was also a pamphlet or a folder you put together that I distributed to everyone. As detailed in my attached qualification summary, my education is focused on real estate, valuation, and business. My experience includes both sides of property tax appeals, managing small businesses, and serving on national and local boards of directors. As a former township supervisor, I've interacted with many departments of county government and have a good understanding of their roles and relationships. At Treasurer Renette's request, I have been consulting with him concerning a proposed interstate capital development in Windsor Township. This proposal includes establishing a tax incremental finance authority, a TIF, in conjunction with brownfield laws. The process is in the early stages, therefore no opinions on the worthiness of this proposal can be offered. As township supervisor, I explored the ideas of a downtown development authority with a TIF for the Lansing Road corridor in Windsor Township with former controller John Fuentes. This idea was abandoned because it was not likely to accomplish the objectives intended. The point is, I believe in creating a project that must have a benefit, and that benefit must be a good deal for Eaton County and the local jurisdiction. I believe my education, experience, and past service will serve Eaton County government, county residents, the Land Bank Board, and the local jurisdiction well. Respectfully, Kern Schlechter, MSMIA. And I'd also like to add that in regard to interstate capital, Kern has already given us some insight that to include any kind of contract that we have with them that would protect the county's interests. So, any questions?
Any questions for the, hey, go ahead. Commissioner Haskell, go ahead.
Well, that last thing you just said there, can you say that again? I missed it.
Well, the Kern has been working both with Windsor Township and then also the Land Bank, giving his experience on the interstate capital development. It's sort of an unusual program, but it's something that I think we'll see more of in the state and also the county, where a land bank, in conjunction with the Brownfield Authority, were able to create a TIF district. And this particular company had had a similar program in Pavilion Township in Kalamazoo. We met with Kern and me met with that their director of their land bank. And one of the things that he pointed out is that we should have an indemnification clause in the contract. Because according to Kalamazoo, they were sued because when they were building this thing, one of the contractors didn't get paid, so they sued the developer and then the county because they're similar things. So it's things like that that he had insight in. And also, because this is a TIF, he said that there should also be a restriction in the contract saying that there would be no tax appeals during the length of the TIF agreement. Because from his experience, that is frequently what happens. So things like that I think are invaluable, so.
And one more question, if I could, Mr. Chair. In the professional biography here, on the top line, it mentions that he does consulting. Is he actively consulting for any sort of real estate or developments or anything like that? I'm just wondering if there's.
Yeah, I think he told me that part of his business is he's cut back a lot in recent years.
Okay.
So, yeah. He lives in Windsor Township.
So we don't have to worry about any like conflicts of
No.
interest or?
No.
Okay.
And any other questions for Treasurer Renette? Treasurer, before you sit down, briefly describe the duties of these committee members.
Well, the committees have, or the board members have certain positions. We have an at-large position, which is this particular position. And there's also a representative from the largest township, largest city, and also from the county commission. The particular duties are to review our resolutions and policies that we create. For example, back in 2023 and 24, we passed a resolution, or the board passed a resolution to purchase the Honer Mill. That was after long consulting with the city of Eaton Rapids and seeing the legal problems they've had with the out-of-state owners. So that's an example. We would debate and discuss solutions to issues like that and pass resolutions. Would also be, they would have input on our policies, such as whether or not we would want to sign an agreement with Interstate Capital in this development project. So the operations of the major decisions of the land bank.
All right, thank you. Any other candidates wish to speak? We have one more, all right.
Jim Eggleston, live over here at Katie's Way. Spent 34 years in government. Went to Western Michigan University for building construction management. Later went on to get my MPA. Worked in my hometown as a building inspector, zoning administrator, economic development. Moved on to other various communities, Marshall, Michigan, where I did public works, also some economic development. Later on, moved on to being a city manager, which I did for 14 years. Retired June 24, which was a blessing. So anybody's city manager knows what you go through. While in Conneaut, that was a very depressed community. They lost over 1,800 jobs. Very difficult community to get going. It was the size of a township. Moved on to Tip City, Ohio, where we had a Myers distribution. We also had a Abbott nutritional facility that expanded. Meyer was expanding to make that one of their areas to expand into Ohio further, Pennsylvania, Kentucky. Worked with 425 agreements, worked with understood JEDs in Ohio. Ohio is just a little different than Michigan on how they do their economic development and write their agreements. While Michigan, yes, I did work with 425s, but also worked to change zoning regulations to be a little more friendly to companies and builders coming in, because you always found out that sometimes they were so harsh that made things a little difficult. I worked as a construction superintendent on $25 million jobs in Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Toledo. So I think I got a very good diversified background. While in Conneaut, Ohio, Ashtabula County started a land bank, which was beneficial to us because we had tons of homes that needed to be raised due to the loss of jobs and the location of Conneaut. So hopefully you'll look favorably upon that. Like I said, 34 years of moving communities forward.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the candidate?
Tim Eggleston.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Any other candidates wish to speak? Now, before we go any further, Ben just asked, or pointed out rather, that one candidate or one seat has to go to Delta Township because Delta Township is the largest township in Eaton County, and then the large position can be filled from anywhere else or anywhere.
Anywhere else.
Anywhere else. All right, so if you're in Delta Township, then if you don't get the seat for Delta Township, then would that immediately remove them from the running? Can we have two positions filled by people from Delta Township?
Yeah.
We
It's
can.
just the minimum is you have to have at least one.
All right,
representative
okay, so that means we don't
Township.
exclude anyone here at this point. All righty. I would like to have a ballot, and I understand one was printed. What are the rules for using the ballot?
So the process would be, we can go through the ballot, but we have to read the results at the end under the board rules and with research that we had performed over, between Public Works and this meeting. So we can do those, we just have to make sure we read them into the record. If in the future we wanted to do kind of a secrecy ballot where folks could vote, you'd have to amend the board rules, which would have to happen at the beginning of the year. So as of today, we can just do it and then we read the results at the end. Or you can do a voice vote. Those are the options.
All right, is everybody clear on that? So I would ask that we do the paper ballot and then just read them at the end. So once you receive that, mark your candidate and then turn back. Remember, we are filling 2 appointments here. Certainly. Windsor.
Windsor. And Andrea is the only one from Delta Township for voting purposes. And it's a reappointment.
Commissioner Haskell? If no one else is from Delta, yes.
Right.
So that seems like an easy vote. All right. Thank you for picking. All right, all the ballots are in. Okay, who's gonna announce it? You want to tap this?
So if you want to
Okay, Commissioner Haskell, 1 vote for Cascarilla, 1 vote for Baker. Commissioner Pro-Wright, 1 vote for Cascarilla, 1 vote for Baker. Commissioner Mudry, 1 vote for Cascarilla, 1 vote for Baker. Commissioner Holmes, 1 vote for Cascarilla, 1 vote for Rogers. Commissioner Barber, 1 vote for Cascarilla, 1 vote for Rogers. Commissioner DeRocha, 1 vote for Cascarilla, 1 vote for Schlechter.
So based on that, it will be Andrea Cascarelli, or Cascarella, and Michael Baker.
All right, there we have it. Any further discussion on this? And these 2 appointees will take their seats when? January 1st?
Yes.
January 1st, all right. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And then Commissioner, Treasurer Raynette, you have a report for us?
Yes. Good morning. Oh, hold on just one moment. Yes, hello again. What I'd like to talk to the board about is an update on the process of returning proceeds from foreclosure sales. And as kind of a quick review, in 2020, there was a landmark legal decision in a case called Raphael versus Oakland County that said that if someone had lost their property in foreclosure, any remaining proceeds go back to them. Prior to that, it went to the county treasurer. So from 2020 on, in 2020, shortly thereafter, there were legislation passed that changed the foreclosure law that if you have foreclosure sales after 2020, those proceeds go back to you, back to the former owner or anyone who had interest in the property. And there's a process, you fill out a form, and then later on in the year, you get to have a motion at the circuit court. And so far, I've seen that process continue in the foreclosure sales we had in 2024 and also in last September and October. There are people that had filed claims. So with the change in the foreclosure law, it kind of came up to just as kind of as would it be expected, people were saying, well, you know, what about the people prior to 2020 that had foreclosure sales and didn't get anything back? So there were a number of lawsuits filed for that. They were eventually combined into a couple of class action lawsuits. And these are for claims or foreclosure cases from, well, in Eaton County's case, from 2016 to 2019. And Eaton County, along with a good number of other counties in the state, were combined into what's called the Wayside Church class action lawsuit. And as an aside, it always threw me why a church would be heavy involved in a foreclosure sale. It turns out the church had a summer camp program, and there was some vacation property or something that was foreclosed, or summer camp property. So that's how they got involved. So this Wayside Church settlement has been going on for quite a few years, and our attorneys were negotiating and back and forth. And one of the groups that I belong to, or many county treasurers belong to, is the Michigan Association of County Treasurers, the MACT, and we get regular legal updates. And they told us earlier this week that the claims, the administrator of the Wayside is getting ready to start paying out claims. So, and I want to make it clear that any claims that get paid out of is going to be coming out of the foreclosure fund, which is separate from the general fund. So these are not anything coming out of the general fund. So I'm going to throw some numbers out here at you, and I don't want you to lose it. So just, you know, the impact on the general fund is, if anything, would be indirect, but this is not affecting that immediately or at all. So anyway, I did an estimate of the claims. We call these pre-Raffaelli claims, and coming out of this class action lawsuit, and that would be $1,071,000 approximately. The fund balance in the foreclosure foreclosure fund is a little over $2 million. So we have enough money to cover that. Also, there were individuals that didn't want to be part of the class action lawsuit, and they went their own way, got their own attorney, and we call those opt-out claims. Eaton County had 3 of those, and we recently got a court order to pay them. And our attorney negotiated an amount, and we had 21 days to pay it, and those checks are literally in the mail. So that's another $300,000 that'll be coming out of the foreclosure fund. So that's a total of approximately $3.1 million. So 3.1 subtracted from $2 million gets us to $636,000. I'm rounding the numbers. So I want to point out in that estimate of $1,071,000, that is kind of, that's, I wouldn't say it's inflated, but it's a worst-case scenario. It's important to know that in that figure, we know from experience that, and also from seeing the processing the claims or the foreclosure sale, that there were no claims made on those particular properties. It was just too time-consuming to separate them out for a purpose of getting an estimate. And so there's no heirs, somebody passed away, and there was no claim on the estate or anything like that. So the $1,071,000 is probably a little high. But the foreclosure balance is sufficient right now. And that is something that will grow over time because every year we have foreclosures, and we, in addition to the property tax, the delinquent tax, we also charge fees and interest on that. So that fund will get replenished, and right now the fund is used to pay the foreclosure land bank specialist and also take care of the properties that are in foreclosure. We have a maintenance person that boards them up. So So worst case, our fund balance would be down to $636,000. There is another case that I need to inform you of. So is there any questions about what I just explained to you?
Done a good job so far, Darius.
All right, good, thank you. Okay, this next case is called Pung versus Isabella County. And the main point in that is, in determining the proceeds from the foreclosure, they're arguing that it should not be the value of the property at the time the property was sold at auction, but actually the fair market value. And in this case, I think it was, the house was sold for like $76,000 at the day of the auction, but it was valued at something like $250,000. And they're saying that should be the estimate. And this case actually is up at the U.S. Supreme Court, and oral arguments will begin next month. And with probably a decision sometime in the spring or June. And this is something that not just affects Eaton County, of course, it affects all the counties in Michigan, which is the majority, that do their own property tax collection, and also it has far-reaching ramifications. That estimate I told you a moment ago, about $1,071,000, I used 2 times the SEV value to estimate the potential of the settlement or the amount, and that raises it up to over $4 million, which is more than we have in the foreclosure fund. There's a couple of things that need to be pointed out, though, that if that were to happen, it'd be catastrophic, but there's a couple of things that should be aware of that may not make, that will offset that possibility. It's that will affect every county in Michigan because it'd be impossible to collect property taxes at that point. People would obviously see the benefit if they, they could, let their house go into foreclosure and get more for it at a foreclosure sale at fair market value. So it's recognized that because of the far-reaching ramifications of this court case affecting all the counties in Michigan, that even though we haven't heard anything, that somebody is going to have to step in and act, whether it's the state government or something like that, at another entity. As I say, it's almost kind of what Act by Tax couldn't do to the property tax. This court decision may well. But the other thing, kind of a ray of hope is, though, the U.S. Department of Justice filed an amicus brief that somewhat supported the county's position on not using fair market value. So that is a situation. We have a potentially very high liability that would affect all counties in Michigan, and it's likely that somebody on the state would have to intervene at some point, but we don't know yet. So I will continue to provide updates as I get them. And I also want to acknowledge the work of our foreclosure specialist who assembled and compiled the claims information and stays on top of all these legal documents and filings. So do you have any questions on this or anything else?
I don't see any questions, Darius.
Okay, well, great. Well, as always, if anyone on the board or the public has any questions, please feel free to reach my office. We're happy to help you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 8, Equalization and Property Description Director, Tim. Good morning, Tim.
This is our annual report over the equalization studies. We do have good news. Values will be going up for next year. In the agricultural class, we showed an average increase of 3.52%. In the commercial class, we showed an increase of 4.13% increase. Industrial was up slightly, 0.76. Residential continues to be strong. We had some pretty high sales in the residential class over the last 2 years, 6.71%. Developmental class was mostly flat. We don't have much developmental. There's just a few parcels left in Delta Township that haven't been developed. So the total real was 5.66% for our overall estimate of 5.39% of SEV. That is the assessed value only, and that's before new construction. So that doesn't mean your taxes are going up that much. So the taxes are capped by what the inflation rate is.
I have a
Breaking,
question before you go any further.
yeah.
How does the data centers, or how do the data centers and solar and wind play into the assessed value for agricultural right now?
I was actually going to talk about that.
All right, then whenever you're ready.
Okay. We did have some pretty big ag sales for solar up by Oneida Township in Grand Ledge area. We did not use those sales because they were extremely high and they just didn't make sense. We also had some ag sales down the southern part of the county, down around Bellevue and Olivet area, and also in the southeastern part of the county, where some people in southeast Michigan purchased property for quite a bit of money, higher than the normal market, so we did not use those sales as well. So if we would have used those sales, the ag values would go up more. So we do look at the overall averages, versus last year and try to compare what the typical market is.
Thank you, Tim.
Breaking it down, Bellevue went up 9% in the ag class. Benton Township was up 3.1%. Brookfield Township was up 7%. Carmel Township was down slightly. Chester Township went up 2%. Delta was up 2.3%. Eaton Township was up 6.8%. Eaton Rapids Township was up 9.9%. Hamlin Township was up 6.7%. Calamo Township was up 3.2%. Oneida was up 8.4%. Roxanne was up 2.5%. Sunfield and Vermontville pulled back a little bit. Walton Township was up 13%, and Windsor Township was up 2.3% for the overall increase of 3.52% in the ag class. We did not have a whole lot of sales the last couple years. 18 sales in the last year and then 16 previously. So we did have to combine some of the areas. And then the overall chart, if you look at that, the economic condition factors based on residential homes, that's been picking up. So that's going up. And then the overall range of tillable land went from 4568 in Carmel Township to a high of 5840 in Sunfield. So most of the areas are $5,000 an acre and up at this point. So it has been going up pretty fast. We did have a pretty large increase in the southwest part of the county and also the southeast. So after we verified our appraisals versus the actual sales, we actually came in a little bit lower than the average sale price. Average sale price of our appraisals was $69.30 an acre, including improvements, versus the sales of $73.35, coming out to, if you minus those improvements, it came out on our appraisals of $49.07 per acre. So it's actually a little bit lower. And that 3.52% increase, that was quite a bit less than the 2024 values, which was up 8.3% and 7.35% in the previous year. Moving on to the commercial class, we had an overall increase in the townships of 3.0%, and the cities were up 7.8%, so overall increase of 4.13%. We have not settled with everybody, but most of them have agreed to what the appraisal studies showed for that overall increase of 4.13%. That 4.13% increase was slightly higher than last year of 3.39%. The industrial class was down a little bit from last year. Where overall, we had an increase of 0.76% in the industrial class. We did not have a whole lot of sales in the industrial class, and so there was not a whole lot to analyze. But that is down quite a bit from the 5.48% increase that we had last year. Residential class, we did analyze the foreclosures, which surprisingly enough, they're actually down the last 2 years. I was expecting a pickup in foreclosures. We're only running around 34 sheriff deeds a year at this point. During the recession from 2008 through 2010, we were running around 500 a year. So that's a good sign that our foreclosures are continuing to be low in residential class. As you can see, we did have some pretty big increases. In Calamone Township, we were up 12.6% in the residential class, so some of the rural areas are still going up pretty fast. 11.2% in Sunfield, 17.4% in Vermontville. That one was kind of shocking, but it did not go up that much 2 years ago, so I think it's kind of making up for that. Overall, we had an increase in the townships of 6.7%. In the residential class, in the cities had an increase of 6.6%, so that's pretty even. Overall in the county, 6.71%. I do think that will moderate next year based on the sales that we're looking at. Overall, we had 1,212 sales countywide that we use considered arm's length, which is trending down, but it's still pretty steady. We had the high of 1,550 about 4 or 5 years ago. That was kind of interesting. And you can see that 6.71% increase is about the same as last year. 2022 and 2023 were really moving at that point. We were over 10%. But I would look for that to moderate. And the developmental class, we're mostly flat. Based on the development, we haven't had very many developmental sales recently. So any questions on this report?
Commissioner Barber.
Tim, I just want to say, when the world comes to an end, I want you speaking to the press.
Okay.
So I know you're a numbers guy,
Yeah.
right? So, but do me a favor. When we're talking about foreclosures on people, residents of this county, please, I know you're a numbers guy, right?
Yeah.
But these are people's lives, right? So when you
Oh, yeah, I
speak,
totally understand
when
that.
you speak of a foreclosure and the camera's looking at you, I really don't need to see a big old smile on your face, okay?
Okay. Well, I think that's good when it's trending down, don't you?
Yeah, I know. I agree. However, you need to quit being so cheerful when we're talking about property taxes going up and foreclosures. Thank you.
Okay. But we're actually not talking about property taxes going up. We're talking about SEV going up, so that's different.
Any other, Commissioner Moudry?
Tim, these agricultural sales, is it small farms being bought out by larger farms? What's going on here?
Yeah, we do see some pretty large farm operations buying out the smaller farms now. Some of the sales are over $1 million, and they can go into multiple townships. So it's some pretty big farmland that they're purchasing.
You know, it's long, excuse me, it's long been the trend that small farms or family farms are going away.
Yeah.
And this is just evidence of that.
And we're seeing the real farms sold for solar now. I mean, it's hard for them to say no when they're offering over $10,000 an acre for a farm to retire.
Now, isn't a lot of the solar rental?
No,
They're leased?
it's actually purchases now.
Oh,
Originally, it was leases
Right.
up in the Delta Township area,
yep.
but now they're all purchases. And I don't know what to expect because I don't foresee those being approved anytime soon in those farm areas.
Because the leases on the solar was for like 20, 25 years, you know? And,
Yeah, I think they were 20 years, as I
Yeah.
recall.
yeah. Could you, this is part two of my question. Could you just kind of give us an overall idea of how the county is doing here?
You want to talk about specific
Not
classes
specific,
or
nope, just general.
just general?
Okay.
I think the county is doing okay. We are seeing a slowdown a little bit. It's kind of surprising though. We've seen quite a few commercial sales recently, like in the fall and the end of the year here, so that's a good sign. There is talk about data centers. I am hearing that, so that is kind of concern. Because a lot of the farmers don't want those in those rural areas. So it remains to be seen if that happens, but I am hearing rumors about that now.
Keep us posted.
I will.
Thank you, Tim.
Commissioner Wright.
Up in the Delta area I am seeing a lot of development around the Snow Road, Millet area type stuff. Is when you say we have a small amount of parcels left to be developed in Delta, is that what you're kind of talking about?
Yeah, there's not many parcels left in the developmental class, and there's not many parcels left in the farm class either. There's only like 17 parcels
Oh.
left in the farm class. So there's not much left for development.
Is that a lot of what we're trying to develop going west of Broadbent? Once we get all the drains and things upgraded for the farms?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I mean, it kind of depends if those people want to sell or not. But there are some protected areas in Delta Township where they require a certain amount of acreage to be developed. I mean, there's still some areas where they require 5 acres or more in Delta Township to be developed.
Okay,
So I think that's good that they're protecting those areas.
okay. Thank you. I'm just seeing a lot of bulldozers and stuff parked in empty fields.
Any other questions for Tim? Tim, I want to take you back to a comment you made about the data centers, and this would include solar in my mind. What impact financial impact do these data centers and solar places have on our taxes? I mean, is it to our advantage to allow these, or disadvantage? What do you think? And you said you had some concerns.
Yes, I mean, it's gonna bring in tax revenues and it's gonna bring in some jobs. So I think that's a positive thing, but I mean, if those people in those areas don't want that in their community, that's obviously a concern.
So,
I've heard that they're gonna do buffers though, is my understanding. They'll have like trees in part of the area, so you're not just gonna see potentially a massive data center right next to your house. I would think it would be a positive thing if they did those kind of buffers.
I'd want them to be awfully tall, but
Have you heard
tax-wise,
anything like
though,
that at all, Ben, or?
Yeah, I was just going to add, because we did talk about this at Public Works. So some of the pieces that you get complaints from communities or concerns where you get a groundswell of support to not have a data center put in. One is consumption of power. So data centers use a lot of electricity, and for states that haven't established a good framework for bringing in that level of usage, often those fees to build out the infrastructure to support it falls on the ratepayers, right? So Georgia was the example I had used where them as a state are really having to grapple with who's paying for the build out of this industrial infrastructure. The other piece is like noise pollution and actual pollution. So some of these data centers, the larger ones, will have large cooling ventilation systems going that essentially run all the time. And so neighbors have nuisance concerns about what that's going to do for the quality of life. I use the example in Tennessee where to avoid that piece, they use gas-powered generators. But then there was an exhaust issue because you had these gas power generators that were massive, blowing right into the neighbor's property. So there's like a lot of pieces like that. As communities are also looking at taking over their own planning and zoning, it's probably front and center of considerations those communities need to make, because you have to have planned uses of land for industrial and light industrial in your master plan for your community. And so if you don't manage those correctly, firms like this can sue the local and try to get their project put through anyway over the objections of citizens. So there is jobs that come when they build it because of the construction crews, but a lot of data centers aren't heavily, it's not like an Amazon warehouse, which even those are highly automated. So it doesn't have as many staff as you would think if it was, say, a manufacturing facility for something that requires a lot of bodies to manage it. So it's a mixed bag, but there are a lot of communities that are eager for this kind of development, and I would say even more that don't want it. So it just depends on the residents.
All right, well, I haven't yet heard an advantage, but okay. Back to you, Tim. How do you think an example of a data center, I don't know how big they are, but how would that affect the surrounding SEV?
It could possibly have a negative impact on the SEV. I mean, like I said before, Delta Township's smart. They separate their industrial from their residential market. So, I mean, it's important to do proper zoning to make sure it fits in that particular area. When I've talked to appraisers, it does seem like the data centers are gonna be near like highway areas. So it's not gonna be most likely in an area where it's extremely rural. So it's just because of the power that they're gonna need. It's a tremendous amount of power they need to run them.
All right. Any more questions for Tim? All right, thanks, Tim, I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. Moving on to item 9, Technology Services Director, Eric.
Good morning, Eric Daly, Director of Technology Services. Going to keep this really brief this morning. Wanted to give you an update on the remonumentation plan. GIS team has hit the ground running with a newly appointed Representative Ryan Miller, who's going to administer your county remonumentation plan. Done great work, obviously in the last 30 days, sub 30 days, actually. They're already working together to leverage some of our internal mapping systems. Ryan's really eager to start using that for efficiencies, mapping out points that are section corners, if you will, that need to be run through the program still, as well as using that to basically index of going back through the maintenance plan of basically categorizing which points we want to collectively as a community to put forward in the maintenance plan once they get to that phase of the project. So really pleased with the work that they have done already and looking forward to good things to come in the next 12 months for that. Quick update on the aerial imagery project that we historically do through Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. We were really hopeful to have final delivery of that data this month to start processing that data over the holidays, while we had a little bit of downtime as far as operating organization here. Unfortunately, they had a glitch in their data center locally within their organization, which has delayed the delivery of that data. So unfortunately, that project will be delayed about 30 days of getting that updated imagery to internal processes here at the county, as well as served out to public applications for constituents. So slight delay on that project, but still within reason. Also, Technology Services team has been diligently working over the past 30 days since we met of updating all of the antivirus solution that's on over 600 endpoints here at the county. This is part of a strategic plan, a planned project we had for this year of streamlining some of the resources and software that we have, realigning to try to get to a single pane of glass for operating and security posture here. We're close to completing that project. We have a project deadline of December 22nd, just before Christmas, to complete that. We're well on target, and that project is going as smooth as possible. So happy for that. Team has done a fantastic job accomplishing that goal. Another topic that I've brought in the past are printers here. We are really starting to realize the vintage of some of our printer fleet here. The vendor that works on basically servicing those devices has kind of hit back a little bit, saying that there are a few devices where they can't get parts for these devices anymore. So typically, an age of a printer is about 7 years. A lot of our printer fleet has far exceeded that 7-year mark now. So it is something that has been identified in your capital improvement project. It is something that we did not budget for this year. It was realized as a target project for this year. But I do plan to come back, and we're working with the Controller's Office to identify any rollover or project savings from last year due to our restructuring of our organization to start attacking cleaning up some of those printers now. But as it stands right now, your printer fleet here, you're looking at about $140,000, I'll call it a liability of replacement equipment on that. Now, it's still our goal to kind of pare down that total number that we have now. Departments have done a real good job of eliminating printers that we don't need now, but we can still do better. We can still pare that down and hopefully narrow that financial liability and still get these devices updated. So look for that in a future request that we're going to start working on, at least asking to replace some of those printers where absolutely needed. Also, continuing to work on, always actively working on our subscription models for our software that we have here. A contract that I worked on literally this week, we've seen a 200% increase request in a subscription. I absolutely refuse to pay that. We can do better. I'll always go back to them and ask for a reduction, or we just won't use it. We will find a different solution for that. But historically, we've been able to leverage very competitive pricing for those. We never accept the first offer. We always go back and negotiate. And in most cases, we're able to accept a reasonable increase of cost. Just try to shoot in that sub 5% increase. But something that comes in at 200% is, in my opinion, absurd. So just want to let you know we are continuing to work on that. And as contracts come up for renewal, we are realigning those contracts to our new normal as far as device counts and staffing counts that we have today. So, but that concludes my report. Does anybody have questions?
Any questions for Eric? Commissioner Haskell.
Are we allowed to know what the 200, what software was that went up to 200%?
I'd rather not discuss.
That's fine. I can understand that I'd be sensitive for different reasons, but I guess to the point of subscriptions and costs, and I understand that we're not a big corporation with a lot of developers on staff or anything like that, but is there ever a point in the time in the future that you could see where it would be more beneficial to start going in-house again with grading some of our softwares?
There's definitely, we have to look at that.
Yeah.
Is there something right now that I can see? Probably not.
Okay.
But in the future, we have to consider that.
Yeah, and that's something I've actually seen at my day job, right, is that software has just gotten so out of control and proprietary, so it doesn't want to work with others, that we've actually gone out and hired developers just to mitigate that.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Eric? All right, well, Eric, I want to thank you for your diligence in reducing costs for us.
You're welcome.
I know it can't be easy, but
It's worth it. We have to.
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Was there going to be a separate report on the Exxon thing?
Yeah.
Okay. That's coming when, by whom?
Right now, with the sheriff's department.
Okay, all right. So this goes over to the sheriff's department.
And obviously, tech services is here if there are technical
Okay.
questions, but leave the sheriff.
All right. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Tom Reich, your sheriff here in Eaton County. We are bringing this to your attention due to the fact that there's money savings here with Axon. And we do have a 2-year left on our current contract. but to have this proposed Axon 5-year contract amendment, and I'm asking that this be forwarded to the full board for final approval. Axon is a wonderful tool. It not only does body-worn cameras, it does tasers, it works, we have body-worn cameras in our jail. I think this is essential for the county, having a big savings if we can do this now, rather than wait 2 years and have a big explosion of extra costs that we could have avoided doing it this year. So, technical stuff on it, Nathan's here, I believe. Yep, if you have any questions, I'm not a techie guy, so I can't answer those things. But as you know, most of you know, Eaton County Sheriff's Office was the first in the region to have body-worn cameras. Tasers are an important tool that we use. It's non-lethal. It does have its purposes, and they are used very frequent. And I guess I can answer any questions right now. I don't feel like reading this whole thing. I think everybody understands what Axon does. But the biggest thing is trying to get this amendment through for a 5-year contract. It's a money saving for Barbara.
Thanks, Sheriff, for coming today. Did we look for any other companies? Because I understand what you're saying is if we wait the 2 years, right? But when I look at this sheet, it's a pretty big price increase. So if we wait for 2 years, I totally understand that, but, so that means we got some time to shop around. Did we shop around?
No. We've shuffled once with the body-worn cameras when we first implemented those. This is, Axon is premier. A lot of police departments in the state use Axon due to the fact that it's a good product, and the program's good. Nathan probably can explain more what this thing does. I think it's cost-effective. If we went to a new company, we'd have to change software, hardware, everything. But Axon is probably the one that's preferred statewide, probably nationally too.
So, I mean, if
We have not went outside.
if they're preferred nationwide, then that means they can charge whatever they want to charge.
We still have 2 years on this contract.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the Command Central. I mean, it's going from 35,000 to 64, you know? I mean, Delta, which, that's where our road patrol is, I mean, that's, what, 60,000 increase? It just seems like a lot of money not to just shop around, you know? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the sheriff? Sheriff, to your comment about the tasers, you said they were deployed frequently. What's the lifespan of those? Once they're deployed, are they not rechargeable? I don't know how those things work.
They are rechargeable. The current tasers we have now are probably 75% effective. The new ones are closer to 100%. Tasers don't work on everybody. I think this is going to be more of a reliable taser, doing it, the fact that it'll be more effective, a non-lethal
You're not
tool
willing
that we
to
can use.
demonstrate for us, are you?
I'm sorry?
Are you, I said, are you willing to demonstrate the effectiveness for us?
No, I don't do those things at the Capitol at all. I stay here.
All right, thank you.
Sure, go right ahead.
The document, if you scroll down in the document, it does show that there are new items added to certain parts of the contract. So specifically, this will change the contract so that each, like Delta is gonna have its own contract. So Delta had requests as part of the contract with the county. We're addressing those requests. So specifically, there's new stuff included in that is not included in other parts of the county. So that's why there's a noticeable cost increase. That's things that Delta asked for. Is there any other questions that I can answer at all?
So just to clarify though, I think the Delta change was about 50,000, right?
Yep.
So the other 79, I think, is probably what the question is related to. But it does look like those are new tasers, correct?
Correct. Yep, there's new tasers in this for everybody that currently has a taser.
Can you talk about the difference between this, versus there was an equipment refresh still in our contract currently. So what's the difference between these new tasers versus riding out the 2 years and just doing a refresh? Are they the same or are they different?
I don't work with the taser part. You know about the equipment refresh of the tasers?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So the question was if there's an equipment refresh currently in our contract right now, that I believe was built in as like a credit, like they were gonna give us credit for the fact.
I know the amendment does have that where it's refreshed continuously throughout the 5 years of this lifespan of this contract.
So does the refresh that's in our current contract cover these new tasers, or is it a refresh, like a refurbish? You know, that's.
I'm sure, yes, it is.
The equipment refresh is for body cams, dash cams specifically. So we are currently owed a refresh of those cameras that we're gonna have included as part of the new contract. Correct.
There's also another tool that Axon does for us, which is law that we provide interview rooms that are recorded. That's also in this contract. And that will be refreshed too on a continuous basis. When new products come out, they're going to have it.
Wasn't there something with training on the tasers
Yes.
as well?
Axon will be responsible for taser training and any other training that's necessary on the equipment that they provide us.
Yep, this does include the VR training.
That's, yeah.
Which does help us reduce the number of cartridges used when the officers get taser certified.
Any other questions? I think this is more for the controller's office, but perhaps the sheriff also. In our plan, we have Delta Township, obviously, then we have Waverly, Windsor, Oneida included. Are those, we're assuming those contracts will remain in place?
Yeah, so that was part of the structure that Eric and Nathan and Sheriff's Office had worked going forward, rather than having one giant agreement that we tried to be like, well, we think this is your portion of our giant contract, segmenting it by units. So then if we didn't get a contract with Windsor or Maple Valley, we could actually drop those segments without violating the entirety of the contract. And then likewise, if we secured a new agreement, if a handful of townships came together to hire a deputy, we could add in a segment. So it's much easier for us to allocate costs because we have it segmented like that. We're not on the hook for those subcategories as long as we maintain the bulk of the agreement. And I see Eric nodding his head, so. And that's helpful for us, because when we started our police services negotiations, that was one of the more difficult things, is historically we hadn't cost out our services like that. You know, we kind of negotiated like, we think this is a reasonable number and the county will cover the rest. So we never really took the time to be like, okay, this line item's this is this, this is this. So that's one benefit to the way this is structured compared to where we're at now.
Any other questions? So at this point, we need a consensus vote to move forward to the full board.
Yes.
Any other discussion on it? What's everybody thinking?
I move to send this to the full board.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, thank you. It's been moved to the full board. All right, item number 10, Public and Governmental Affairs Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Logan.
All right, a couple of quick updates for you today. Your Clarity Report, which again monitors users on our website specifically. We had nearly 43,000 users in November. We're pretty much averaging 35,000 to 45,000 folks a month utilizing our site. About 60% of those are utilizing it at least once, and then 39%, about 17,000, are coming back and using it again and again, whether they're accessing information from Veteran Services or they're making a payment to the courts. That's how often folks are using this site. 2,700 sessions were bots, which is kind of part of what I want to talk about today. Now that's pretty much stays average, but as you may have seen, we recently had some successful phishing attempts that happened where an AI, and there's no real way to know how they formed this plot, I guess we'll call it, but there can be an AI scrubber that goes to our site and you tell it to look for vulnerabilities or look for something specific. In the case recently, looking at planning and zoning, looking at who has an application in for a conditional use permit or something like that. And by vulnerability, I mean, what are they doing with the county and how can we maximize or how can we use that to try and extort some money? And so all that to say, there's not a lot we can do with these bots exist. There are bad actors out there. IT does a fantastic job with trying to implement as much cybersecurity as possible, which is why I'm also going to talk about now and make a plea to all departments and offices and sort of give them warning that I and probably members of IT, and I believe I talked to Nathan about this recently, we are going to double down on our efforts of utilizing new web email addresses, which IT has created. Those are implemented, and that's where it's a specific email address other than like emailing L. Bailey or B. Dawson for something specifically from the controller's office. You will email the controller office web@eatoncounty.org email address. Now, that doesn't go for internal folks like the board or staff, but for the public. What that does, it gives these scrubbers, it gives these phishing attempts one less means of contact of trying to usurp our identity or scrub for more information. And so some offices have implemented this well, some haven't, and that could be due to staffing, that could be due to just needing to update the site. And so we're systematically going through each one of those. So you will be getting an annoying phone call from me, or potentially I'll show up in your office and say, who has access to this site? Because the other thing is that's another inbox, right? That's another thing to monitor. That we need to make sure that offices are monitoring those and using those web addresses, basically. So that was more of a plea to internal staff to be prepared to hear from me and or Nathan repeatedly. Nathan's nodding, okay. Other than that, we have also taken great strides, and this goes towards making sure these email addresses are being utilized in redeveloping pages and updating information like Veteran Services page. And so I would just say to commissioners, if you see a web page, and shout out to Commissioner Barber and Christensen for doing just this. If you see a web page, you think, hey, some of this information may not be fully up to date, might be needs to be updated, or links need to be fixed, please let me know. Please let IT know, and we'll move those up on the docket. So because we're basically going one by one, just trying to check, and then we have to check with those departments to make sure that that information is correct, or should this be updated, that kind of thing. Quickly as well, looking at the Meta Platform Insights. These are just social media. We saw a huge spike in usage, as we sometimes do. It's a fickle thing depending on what the algorithm decides. Again, we need to try and dedicate more time. I specifically would like to dedicate more time into using these social media platforms to get information out. Right now, we kind of send the information out that's pertinent, and then we let it sit. If we want more interaction, we have to engage more there, but we just don't really have the staff time to do that. I also did put a breakdown in here, as I do pretty much quarterly, on the top cities, basically, is how they're, and these aren't going to be exact, but this is where most of our followers come from. Although a whole lot of our interaction actually comes from people that don't follow us. It's people that are sharing, and then their groups are accessing our information, whether that's a press release, policy update, that kind of thing. Any questions on that website piece or social media?
Commissioner Wright.
I failed. I did a phishing attempt from Jim Mott on proposal. Are you management@eatoncounty.org?
Me? No.
Who is? Because I sent a message back. I thought I was doing my homework.
So that is nobody here.
That is nobody here.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. And if you ever see something like that and you're like, this is odd, or you're not sure of who this is, you call me. Call Eric or Nathan.
Oh, I'm good at sending screenshots
Yes,
to Liz.
do exactly that. Don't click any links, don't reply, just
But I wouldn't.
don't even open an attachment.
Jim, I honestly thought you were trying to educate me on something that was going to be on this Ways and Means meeting. For it said proposal, and due to the fact we're doing the zoning stuff. I get it, because when I clicked on that link, it showed a big red X, and I was not happy. So Logan, I'm trying.
Hey, that's all I can ask.
That one,
Yeah.
Jeannie, we won't use the tasers on you.
hey,
I do have a question, Logan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to address it. But concerning that thing that happened with planning and zoning, are you going to address that?
Specifically, I wasn't planning on it, but I can try to, or
Well,
I'm
I don't
looking
need
at
a
Eric.
lot of details, but just to let the public know what's going on for those that aren't aware.
Oh, yes, sorry. So we did send out an official notice on this as a warning, but phishing attempt targeting, and Eric, could correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, a phishing attempt was done at anybody that had access planning and zoning, and let me also preface this with, even if you didn't utilize planning and zoning services, it doesn't mean you aren't being targeted. But basically, if you utilized planning and zoning services, somebody posing as a staff member, kind of like Jim, posing as a staff member, reached out to vendors, reached out to members of the public that utilize planning and zoning services, saying they owed an invoice and requesting a wire transfer of money. And they were successful in some case, in a case. And so, we caught wind of that. Again, our IT does a fantastic job with cybersecurity, but there's only so much we can do. And our site, specifically any municipal site, has a lot of information, has a lot of data, a lot of public-facing information that has to be on there, and so it gets tricky. We also have a lot of staff members. And so as soon as we figured out what this was, staff reached out to IT. They did a fantastic job. I worked with them to get the information out as soon as possible. And I believe, I'm looking at you again, Eric, that attempt for the wire transfer that was done, they were able to get their money back by working with their financial institution. So if we catch it quickly enough, oftentimes it can be fixed, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way, and that money's gone. So did that?
Thank you, Logan.
Yes. And you can find information on our homepage on exactly this incident and some guidance as to how to be cognizant of attempts like that.
The county will never request you to make a wire transfer as a form of payment for goods or services.
Yep, and if-
Just know that and PayPal are very good signs that someone's probably trying to scam you, so.
That, or if they're saying that your boss is going to provide a turkey or something to you if you click this link. Yes, Connie, I know you would never do that. Anyway. Just a couple other quick updates for you. I did speak with Congressman Barrett's office on that security funding request that we made. It was included on the appropriations bill draft, but at this point, we're not really sure what's going to happen with it. And so I'm hopefully going to follow up with me today or Monday on exactly that. And so that's like not good news, not bad news. But Eric, again, I keep calling you out, and I'm sorry. That is a significant amount of money hopefully we can utilize towards cybersecurity specifically is why I bring it up. And then also, as you may have seen, commissioners, I did send out an email yesterday, and Ben, you jump in if you want to here too, but State Fiscal Agency did release a list of additional potential cuts from appropriations that have been done in the last couple of years. And almost 15 million of those cuts were going to impact specific allocations for either Eaton County or those in Eaton County or municipalities in Eaton County that requested funding. Now, I did speak with our state representatives on this, and they're also not 100% sure what's going to happen or how this is going to work, and so we will see. I'm not going to say matter-of-factly, as I said in that correspondence to you, that these are going to officially be cuts, but it does look likely that that's what's going to happen. As soon as I know more, we will send more information out.
I think it's pretty solid. I think in the interim would be the possibility the board wanted, they could vote to move a letter just affirming support for reinstatement of these provisions. So for example, with the Charlotte Fire Training Center, that appropriation has been in the works for a couple of years. Our fire training folks have put money forward on this project, getting liability coverage, getting all their ducks in a row in partnership with the county. But again, you also look at like the Sparrow Health Systems. So a lot of these projects, even though they haven't had disbursements, have committed capital and hours of resources. So it's a tough hit for the communities impacted. what it was is the House didn't, they just retracted authorization for work project language. So at the state level, you have an appropriation that has law for a year, but under the law, you can do a work project where it can span, I think, up to 4 to 5 years if it's like construction, infrastructure, things that take time to complete. Like we did with the youth facility. In this instance, I believe the House is just pulling back their authorization on the work project, which didn't require concurrence with the Senate. I don't think it's been done before. I think there's some questions up in the air about how this will shake out, but at the end of the day, it's a consideration for the board to make. Do we want to just say, hey, these dollars are very important for the communities of Eaton County?
Yeah, and
As an option.
I would add too, they have a certain amount of time once it's declared like a work project account to actually disapprove the money, I guess is the language they were using. I think it's till, they have 2 more days, I think, to like finally do it, but they already released what they're gonna do. And of course, as per anything, some of that language they used to do that wasn't super clear. So that's why we're kind of trying to figure it out. But even if the money was allocated and then not dispersed, or in some cases partially or completely dispersed, they are looking to claw it back potentially, which is something that Controller Sobey mentioned with the Fire Training Center specifically when we first got into this, that project was, well, we want to make sure that the county is protected because if something like this were to occur and we had already spent money and we're waiting on a reimbursement and we weren't going to get it then, and so that would just be our cost specifically. And so that's kind of this stressful dance we have to play in getting state or federal funding, and you never know if what's promised is going to come to you.
Okay, we have 2 questions. Commissioner Haskell?
I would really like to see a letter come from the board on this personally. I don't know if I should be authoring it because I'm quite pissed, to be honest. I mean, this was given 5 minutes of discussion, if that, on the board, and I don't see fire training as waste. I don't see, maternal care as waste or cancer research as waste. And then obviously we'll leave all that out because that's not business for the county, but I would definitely like to see something come from us as a whole. And like I said, I understand that we'll have to keep the language collaborative, but we can't be silent on this.
All right, Commissioner Wright.
I raised my hand for the same reason, but do we want to also indicate that some of these allocations were made, later, in the past time, and that some of that money has already been spent from many of these projects? I mean, so they get a clear understanding that you're just, don't care about what's going on? I mean, I'm like flabbergasted as well that we've worked so hard to get where we are, and then all of a sudden you go, no. And people have spent money and time, and it's just not, for me, it's not right. I also want to add, and maybe I should have said something when Mr. Vandermark was up here, but I watched the Speaker of the House, Hall, talk about coming up with ideas to change how we fund, and not all through property taxes. And that went up, are you kidding me? Because we're already fighting over the 24% tax on the marijuana shops that many counties are using actually as funding streams at their county levels. And so I'm just the way it's operating, I'm sorry, in Lansing is every turn of the corner is not settling well with me.
Commissioner Shaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarity, first of all, just because I see in our notes here that it's being called the Charlotte Fire Training Facility, although it would be built in Charlotte, it's a county-wide facility that all of the chiefs have collaborated on. And just to speak to the importance of that, just briefly, not that it's not important to people, but serving in the fire service and understanding the needs that there are to provide quality training to new firefighters. The majority of our county counts on volunteer or part-time firefighters to serve our local municipalities. And this is going to provide the highest quality training for them. So not that anybody would be against that, but that was it's very important. And it's not just a Charlotte thing. Even if it were, that would be important, but this literally affects the entire county. They have been working very hard on that because of some poor language in the appropriation. If you remember correctly, before I was seated, that had to come through this committee as well as the board to be able to have the county be the fiduciary of that. So there could be some questions in people's minds like, what does that have to do with this, et cetera, et cetera. It really, because we stepped into that role, which I think was good for all of our voters and taxpayers, that I think it could do good. I've been on the phone several times over the last 24 hours with people in Lansing trying to see how this could be cleared up. And not just to be clear, this appropriation, I agree with Commissioner Haskell. This is an issue across the county. We understand the financial issues that we're facing as county government. A lot of our local governments are experiencing the same thing, and these dollars meant a lot of things to a lot of people. And I think looking at it from Cliff Notes anyways, it was all good things to all of the people that was going to be. And so I think a letter from the commission not only would be appropriate, but could be very beneficial. I understand at county level, cuts that had to be made. There was lots of advocacy that was happening, and I think it's important for that advocacy to happen. I think at the state level, there's always partisan politics that are at play. That's just the way that things are. You're never going to change that. But I think that advocacy from the county, as well as if there's people watching this that are part of local government, fire chiefs, et cetera, if I haven't spoken with you, a letter from you is going to be very important as well. Or if it's some of the things that were happening for hospitals or other things, let your voice be heard, do it in writing. And just understand if it's a countywide thing, we have 4 state reps, not 1, that represent Eaton County. And they all need to hear from us. Because what's happening here and what's supposed to be happening here matters. But I know I don't have a vote on this committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, but I am advocating that we would have a letter written, and I would love to be a part of co-writing that if it was seen fitting by the chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Mott?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. From what I've heard on this, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is going to be cut, correct? I mean, they really haven't given a timeline of when they're going to look things over and kind of weed out what they don't like. Haven't heard it?
No, it's a really good, as of the morning, it looked like a very broad cut that was probably mostly focused on MDHHS at the state level. Then through MAC, we got a copy of a list of projects that actually was hitting a lot of local units of government, and MAC's the Michigan Association of Counties. The other piece that's being discussed is that this may be a roadmap to having a negotiation on a supplemental bill within the House. So if that makes sense. So it may be we're stopping the projects, but if we sit down and come to terms on a supplemental, they may get reauthorized. So that was kind of the reason we were like, well, we could do a letter just to say, hey, this is what we think, and that way it's, food for thought while they work out the legality of it, and then also whether or not to reauthorize, and if they do make it pass through their first round of cuts, and they do reinstate things that they consider reinstating ours. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I heard too. No, I'm in agreement. I think a letter from the board would be a good idea. And also, if any commissioners or any staff, anybody that has, good relationships with the legislators in Lansing, to send a text, email, whatever, the more we can get it out there, the better, that, to make whoever the decision makers on this project are more aware of the need of this project, so.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, questions? All righty. Pardon? Oh, yes, Commissioner Shaver.
Just to be clear too, and I don't like what happened with this, but this wasn't a vote of all of our representatives. In fact, I'm not sure if any representative from Eaton County got to vote on this. This was a vote in the Appropriations Committee for this, and they all didn't even know what they were voting on until after they voted it, and I don't like those things. I'm not trying to go on the record saying that, but like when we do communicate with our state reps, they're not the problem, they're the ones that can help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope, I'll work on getting that letter draft, and I'll reach out to commissioners to assist with that.
Brandon, write it.
I want the county to do well.
Yeah, and Commissioner, to Commissioner Shaver's point too, all the state offices and their staffs that we've talked to, they're also scrambling and not particularly thrilled about this, so yes. If you also hear from anybody in the list that I sent, or any other community in your districts that is losing this funding or is hyper concerned too, we can coordinate getting some of that correspondence out too.
Again, Mr. Shaver.
Apologize, one more question. Would it be appropriate, because there have been some questions to me about, from some of the municipalities that I represent, about maybe getting a copy of that letter so that they could create a Me Too version of that? Some of us are better
Absolutely.
at writing things than others, and it might be a benefit to the local municipalities and agencies like fire departments, et cetera, to get a copy of that sooner than later, so that they could engage in that way as well. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any last remarks, questions, comments? Anything else, Logan?
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, sir. Item number 11, Deputy Administrator, Human Resources Director, Ben. Good morning.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Chair.
it's not yet. We haven't been here that long.
Oh, maybe it's just in my mind. Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. So moving right into the positions update. Since we have a big agenda, I'll try to be quick. So we filled 7 positions this month. We had 6 resignations. Currently, the county has posted 12 positions, of which 2 are new and 9 are tied to continual requisitions that remain open until they're filled with the prosecutor's office, sheriff's department, and the youth facility and then parks. The request today is for reauthorization of 2 positions due to resignations. One is in the public defender's office and the other is in the equalization office. For staffing at the sheriff's department, the net where we're down as of today, because we had 1 hire since this took place, since I put the report together. So we're down 7 sworn officers. 1 is a sergeant, 1 is a detective, and our position list still includes the 3 deputies that we have allocated for contractual services, which will give an update on police service contracts a little bit later on. So I'll take any questions, but would welcome. Oh, and trial court had 2 positions that just got hired. I'll reflect them on next month's piece, but friend of the court, the administrative assistant roles have been filled, so. Yay.
Seeing none, carry on.
So if you guys wouldn't mind making a motion authorizing those 2 positions at the bottom, and then we can move on.
All right. Moved and supported. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? There you have it, Ben.
All right. Next, if Eric, you want to come on deck? Next is a position request form. So often if we do these, they're part of the budget. This one is a little bit different. So when we had negotiated the police services contract with Delta Township, we had the 15% administrative fee that we've tried to make standard moving forward with like contractual services that we offer. And one of the discussions we had with Delta was the impact of public safety and coordinating 24/7, 365 coverage for technology services for police services. And in that, part of the agreement we made was that we would allocate a network administrator for the purpose of supporting public safety to help support the Delta contract. So what you see before you is that position, 100% funded by the admin revenue under the Delta agreement. What this is meant to do is give Eric the support he needs to continue managing that police services contract, while also ensuring that the county has tech services available to make sure that that agreement works. If there's a concern at the Delta station, substation, that, you know, they have somebody who's kind of the go-to point person on that. A little later, I'm going to talk about reclassifications, and Eric's department is on the list. It may not be economic, but this will give him the opportunity to segment specializations in his team as well. And maybe if you want to lead right into that, if
Sure.
yeah.
You know, this is something a long time coming. This isn't a new request that we've had just because of the Delta contract. This is a nice way to accomplish that goal. But it is something that we've asked to do or conceptually wanted to do for a long time of restructure, just because of the changing needs and dynamic within the organization, and just as technology and, you know, the highest growth in cybersecurity, of being able to realign some of the positions that we have now that are, you know, kind of been traditionally siloed in a job description, if you will, that probably aren't aligned with market conditions today or realistic duties that we have as an organization today. So I welcome this, but I do, and Ben alluded to, there will be a request to do some, you know, restructuring of positions and duties, and that'll be really important for succession planning for the future, as, you know, we all transition, you know, to, you know, different things in our lives in the future, that this will help strengthen that as well. And it'll, you know, alleviate some of the pressure from Nathan and I too, of having to do so many technical roles, and be able to focus a little bit more on the administrative side of things, and really strengthen that initiative as well. So I really do welcome the opportunity for consideration of this.
And this is our ideal model going forward. If the county takes on work, takes on contractual services, that we're paying for it with the admin fee to make sure that we're staffing accordingly. So one, we deliver good service to the people we're doing business with. Two, we're delivering good service to the residents. And three, we're not burning out our staff. So this is an example of our first step forward in that endeavor to support service departments at the county. I think Eric would probably say, typically, the mantra's always been, here's the work, figure it out. Here's the work, figure it out. And this is us implementing that change, where we're being proactive and planning so that we can keep a high level of service and integrity in our operations.
Probably don't see it changing up, here's the work, do it though.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So that being said, the request would be a motion authorizing the addition of this position, and because it's a new position, it would go to the board, correct? Yeah, that's what we would be asking. Welcome any questions.
Yeah, you have to amend the position allocation list.
And also, we would amend the budget.
Correct.
For that.
Okay, is everybody clear on that? Do we have a Commissioner Wright?
I make a motion that we add this additional position, and it's funded through the Delta Township admin fee.
We have motion and support. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Haskell.
Thank you. Yeah, I initially wanted to ask, like, how this was different than, you know, kind of the services we provide to Barry Eaton Health. But then I think, Ben, you kind of touched on it there. That was this. Here's some work. Find it out with the workforce you have.
Sure.
So I think this is just a good discussion to have out in public here. So if we're cutting services at Barry Eaton Health. That's a reduction of scope. You're not cutting a position there, right? Correct. All right, so now that we are adding these services, you need this position added.
Sure.
Okay, all right. I just, when we're talking about reducing in one place and expanding in another, I think, for public's sake, it's kind of nice to have that all wound together, but.
And I would say, had we had this method in place when we took on Barry Eaton, it probably should have looked like Eric saying, I'm gonna need 0.33 of an FTE or 0.5 of an FTE. This is how much that costs.
Right.
And then that contract should have covered the ability for that work to be added. But it was always just take the work on. It was an emergency when that happened because somebody passed away. And so it all happened quickly, but it just kind of stayed there. So Eric's department took it on without getting the additional. The contract included an on-call piece, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But so we did try to upgrade that contract to be more in line with where we're going, where we are acknowledging the actual costs and the staff. So the Barry Eaton contract does have the 15% now, as well as a provision to follow up and let them know what an on-call structure cost would look like.
Right, but when we did that 15%, we didn't get a person. Right, it was still thrown on the existing staff, where this is where this becomes.
You are
different.
correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so going forward is what I'm thinking about. If we do more contracts for public safety in some of our other areas of the county, I'm thinking that they will have the same admin fee, which we've discussed, but how do they keep taking on more work? But it's not going to be a real person to do that, because like if it's Windsor and they do like 7.5 or something of a position. I'm trying to figure this out, how it's going to work. If we're clearing up Delta, and I don't have a problem with clearing up Delta, I can well see that we even added people in the contract, okay? So I understand that. I'm just thinking how, as we move forward in a situation like this, how we're going to keep covering the point whatever, get my point?
Absolutely.
Eventually, it has to be a person.
Yeah, that's the concern that Eric has had for a long time, that service departments have had for a long time. And when we implemented that service fee, admin fee for all of the agencies, and as we move forward, we need a mechanism to measure what we need in staff. So it's a catalyst every time you add something. Now, I will say with these contracts, they've existed in the past. So the ones that we're talking about, the 0.25 and the 0.75, but the idea is for Eric to have a method to add staff as those contracts develop, so much so that he needs additional help. It's just something we've never done, and if we're gonna take on that revenue, we're not taking it on so that we can, just keep the money. We're utilizing it for a purpose to operate these contracts, and that will exist everywhere, including with the grants. Any grant that we have, the same thing. So it comes into the finances, it comes in to facilities with respect to anything that we do facility-wise. I mean, we're talking about leases and changes in the leases, and that's something that Chad will have to look at. So we need to make sure that we're prepared, and that's one of the things that we weren't able to do when we started implementing how we would deal with contracts and grants in the future. That makes sense?
Yep, yes, because eventually it needs to have a name attached to it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And essentially, if I could add, it's something not just for technology services, but overall as an organization, as we look at considering taking on other contracts and we consider adding another position to that we also look at, kind of what Connie and Ben alluded to, of a point system, looking at reevaluating and potentially restructuring a department to better align, because taking on work isn't equivalent to one person taking on that workload. It is a workload of the entire group in a department, or multiple departments, if you will. So just, something to consider as we look at contracts of the future, that we look at at an organization level of how we align ourselves properly to that for stability long-term, and not just the model that we've had in the past where we just take on the work and we just do it and figure it out and move on. I don't think that's sustainable long-term in the future for future workforce.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Eric? This position we're talking about, this would be hiring someone outside, or are we gonna move somebody up, or what's the plan?
We'll post it outside.
Okay.
But we'll consider looking internally as well. But something that I would consider is, what Ben is going to talk about, I think, coming up here of restructuring, reclassing positions and realigning to potentially some different job roles and titles, and we'll see, internally where we can make moves and then see what vacancy we still would have left.
Thank you. All right, moving forward. Thank you, Art.
Yeah, motion to accept. I don't know if we voted. No, we did not.
No.
Okay.
So we've got to vote on that.
So,
It was moved and supported. Yeah, but no other comments. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, we've moved forward. Item number C, Ben?
yeah, and I'll just, as I put a cap on that, the on-call, we've been looking at comparable communities. So we've been looking at Ingham County as a model for proposing an on-call structure that will cover scope of departments. We need to sit down and have discussions with you, Mr. Chair, and Chairman Mott and others just about this is what this would look like and potential cost for it. But it's meant to create a incentive structure for people that have to be on call all the time and have to regularly respond on weekends, evenings, and holidays, depending on what the situation is. So we hope to present that next month, including what the cost of the footprint would be. But if we ever do a wage study, which I'll talk about in the next piece, but at that time, you could look and see, do we still need an on-call structure if we do a market adjustment and we get people paid at what they should be based on comparables? But I think for now, with where we're at, an on-call structure is a need, not a want.
And you're looking at for exempt employees.
For exempt employees, yeah, correct. So this would be just related to non-union employees and those that are not eligible for overtime. So some employees get called in and they get paid time and a half. It's your exempt, say, directors who are paid at a flat rate all year round, and they have to answer the call no matter what, or their deputies. Yeah.
There you go, Commissioner Wright.
I'm trying to process when we talk about Ingham County versus Eaton County comparables and whatever. Okay, let's go back to that little Excel sheet that you had that compared the commissioners and their packages to those 16 counties. Okay, so that's what you did, but we always say compared to Ingham County. So I looked up, our population is about half of what Ingham's is, or less. And so it's apples and oranges depending on which topic you're talking about. So I'm just trying to figure out how we're ever going to compete with the size of the situations like in Ingham. Even Calhoun has to have a bigger population than we do. So how are we going to keep comparing ourselves that way? When I first started way back the first time in, we used to compare ourselves with Allegan, right? So you,
Allegan is still a comp.
okay,
for
so,
the county.
okay, so you understand, because I several times hear Ingham, and
Well, I think the Ingham reference for the most part ends up being because they're our neighbor. right? So you have employees who might live in Lansing that have come to work here. They're closer to Ingham County, and we're not getting, and we hadn't been getting the pay increases, right?
Right.
So they end up just jumping ship from here and going over where they can make more money. We've said the same with the state of Michigan. Now, we know financially, we cannot compete with those larger entities. We can't do it. But to try to be more competitive, especially if we're talking about comparable size and taxable value population, I think, we need to look at that for sure, which is what we've done. And you do that with a salary study. You do that when you go into union negotiations. Those were discussions that we had with the unions during bargaining for the wage reopener. And that's just something you have to look at. But yeah, you're not going to be able to compare Ingham County and Eaton County financially. You just can't. Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, I said, I don't know where this goes on the agenda, but we just got into a different type conversation that didn't have a number attached to it, so.
Yeah, it's not a number attached, just to talk about the salary, the reclassification process. So that's what Ben's going to talk about next.
Yeah, and the on-call was just a heads up that it's coming. I didn't want it to. I think we've mentioned it in passing, but I just wanted you to know it's coming, so it doesn't.
Okay.
And then
I'm
whether.
just talking and having a conversation here.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever the amounts the board would decide to do if they chose to move an on-call is completely up to you all. But structurally, it was just a sound model, and it looked like it would be easy to implement, and it would take out some of the questions about, do I get paid on call for a weekday? Or, how is a holiday different from a week that doesn't have a holiday? So those are kind of part of our inspiration with the use of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll actually have that in the packet next month.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So annual reclassifications. Last year, the board had actually done a freeze on the reclassification process, pending only special requests that were made that would lead to cost savings or were part of an internal restructure. Under our personnel rules, it's a standing thing that any employee can request a reclassification consideration on their own, so they don't have to get authorization from their boss or their supervisor. If they think they've taken on new work that warrants higher pay, once every 2 years, they can request their new duties to be evaluated. And they go through our 2014 wage study. And there's a point system based on the type of work that's done that's used to calculate what their pay should be on our non-union scale. So this year, we're just asking for clear direction on what we want to do. We can either revert back to the old policy and people individually can submit. Our preference would be to keep it at a departmental level rather than an individual level, just because of capacity in our office to manage all these individual requests, because they have to come in, we have to check them for alignment, and then pay $600 per evaluation. I've already had discussions with Treasurer's Office, Central Dispatch, and Emergency Management. I haven't talked to Ryan yet, but there's been discussion about possibly restructuring there between those two. Technology Services, which we just talked about, which would probably be less economic and more strategic designations within the department, especially with the on-call discussion overlapping this. And then equalization, we just had a resignation there. That's a department you have to plan 5 years in advance, because the size of our county, we need a level 4 assessor, and it's a very time-consuming process. So I need to work with Director Vandermark to present maybe a model where we get somebody and we help cover part of their costs to get them from a 2 to a 3 to a 4, so that when we anticipate a retirement of our current director, we're not in a position where we're going out to try to find a level 4 to contract. Anyway, so those are some of the pieces. So the request would be to put a hold on the individual reclassification requests and continue to allow the special reclassification requests under the personnel rules for another year.
I make that motion.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? All right.
And the last thing I'll say before we move to that is we do need a salary study. We do. Those should be done every 8 to 10 years because a salary study is a snapshot of the value of work at that time. And we're operating on a system that was done in 2014, and a lot has changed over that period of time. A lot of adoption of new technology and a lot of increased threats, laws, et cetera, that have gotten incorporated. That being said, we don't have the money to do it now. Even if we had the money, we don't have the staff time to evaluate every position and the nooks and crannies of every single job duty that's associated with the position. But in the next few years, it's something we're gonna have to take a swing at. And that may mean that we implement it over like a 5-year period. You know, if the survey says this position is 8% off from the market, you might not be able to get them there overnight, but there should be some kind of plan to get those positions up there. Anyway, so we can explore that, but I want to keep that on the radar. We had an RFP ready to go for this, but our millage has failed. And so we're doing the best we can in the system we have, but no, some of these reclassifications and discussions we have is continuing to make this structure work on our current demands. Yeah. So last is action item, pretty simple. This is right in line with what we typically do, but so it's the short-term disability rate. So essentially, we're requesting authorization to increase the short-term disability the employer provides. We set it at a maximum weekly allowed, kind of similar to how unemployment works. No matter how much you get, this is the most that you can get through this benefit. And we typically always do a cost of living adjustment equal to what we gave through the budget process. So we're requesting a 5% increase on that short-term disability. In your packet, you see the rate change from 2022 to now. And the one thing we're going to do differently, rather than run this as a January 1st change like we've done historically next year, we're just going to do it as part of the budget. So it's one less thing to remember to have to move. So request a motion updating that rate.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion?
How long is short-term disability?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
How long of weeks, months is short-term disability?
I just want to say 26 weeks.
Okay,
Mhm.
half a year. Okay.
It runs concurrent with FMLA. So that's, it's not in addition to FMLA or FMLA in addition to that.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
And then through the standard, not the standard, but through American Fidelity, employees have the option to purchase out of pocket a long-term disability plan as well. But that's not an employer-sponsored benefit, but we
That
do.
comes out all the time? I mean, out of their payroll?
If they set up that way.
If they set
yeah.
it up
So we work with American Fidelity, so if folks need insurance or want to do any type of service offerings that they have, we'll run it through our payroll services. So it's one less thing for them to have.
Is that based on their wage in the long term, or is it a flat rate?
I believe it's based on the wage. I want to say 80%, but honestly, I don't carry the coverage. But Fidelity was just here this week, actually, so I know a number of employees met with them.
So depending on how much you earn, like right now, while you're physically capable of doing the job, then your rate that would be taken from your paycheck?
Oh, not that
Varies?
I don't know how they structure that. But I know if you're interested, they say this is how much it would be for you to do the coverage.
Oh,
Because it's a contractual agreement between the employee and that carrier,
Okay.
if that makes sense. So the employee would have the option to choose yes or no.
Okay.
I don't know if they do sliding based on how much you make. They probably do. That would make good business sense for them, but I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposition? All right. Anything else, Ben?
Nope, I will come back later, but that's it for now.
All right. At this point, I will call a 15-minute recess, and we'll be back in here approximately 11:10. Okay, we will resume this meeting, and we will pick up where we left off at item number 12, Finance Director Melissa.
Good morning. So today I have a few reports for you. Luckily, they'll be brief. First and foremost is the monthly financial report. So this only encompasses about 1.5 payrolls. So you'll see it's not quite comparable to last year, the same time frame, but it's pretty similar. There are a couple of things I'd like to note. We did have a reduction in local unit contributions. That's due to the Delta Township contract. Similarly, with expenses, those also were reduced in public safety. Again, that is due to the Delta Township contract. So I also want to note I won't be presenting a monthly financial report for next month, partially because timing with the audit, but also because I want to make sure that I present a quarter worth of data to you so that it's a little bit more comparable across the board. Are there any questions on the financial reports at all?
I don't see any questions. However, I do have one, and this is to piggyback on what Treasurer Rainette was talking about for the foreclosure fund. That does not impact the county's general fund at all, correct?
The foreclosure fund does not directly impact the county's general fund. However, there's a couple of considerations. So currently, the county operates by taking or allocating $1 million from our delinquent tax fund. The items that are going through the court system may be impacted by that. So that might reduce what's available in our delinquent tax fund. Also, we do have an employee that is funded out of the foreclosing governmental unit fund. And if those funds are in jeopardy, that employee might need to be moved to a different funding source. And the most likely source would be the general fund. So that would be an impact. But again, like I said, it's not a direct impact. So.
All right, thank you. So we don't have to deal with a budget issue with that foreclosure fund?
Not yet.
All right. Well, that's reassuring. Thank you.
So the next report that I have for you is the Blue Cross report for our health insurance. This is a full year picture of what has happened for our health insurance fund. Right now, as it sits, there's a few lingering fiscal year end journals that still need to be done, but as of right now, our fund is increasing by just under $100,000. And I know that change doesn't seem substantial or significant. It's less than 1.5% of annual expenses. However, the last several years, we've seen major reductions, major expenses that are over what our health insurance fund has had allocated. So we have had to supplement over the last several years. So it does help. Makes me feel a little bit reassured that the changes that the board has made in reductions of GLP-1s, the implementation of our Medicare Advantage program, they have made substantial changes in our health insurance, and that is reflected on these numbers.
Any questions for Melissa or on her reports, Commissioner Haskell?
So previous year, we were negative 313.
So we were not negative. We had expenses in excess of revenues by $300,000. Luckily, we did have some fund balance that we were able to pull from, which is what allowed us to not be in a fund deficit on that fund.
Sure. So I guess you could say it's only 97,000, the other direction, but it's a $400,000 swing.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I will also note on one of the graphs at the very back, there is a pie chart showing your prescription drug costs, your fixed costs, professional services, and then facility costs. If we look at this same chart from last year, prescription costs were 27% of the costs of our health insurance program. So the changes were major. That has helped put this back in alignment with what Blue Cross is recommending as well. So, do you have any other questions?
No. I want to add something, though. I don't have a real question, but from going to a breakout session at our MAT conference, I went to the Blue Cross Blue Shield one, and this facilities cost here, they're having a hard time managing the ongoing increased costs in the facility because for 20 years, we've been merging and acquisitioning, and so the competition, they gave as an example, is that there's only 3 major hospital chains in the hospital facilities in all of Detroit area. So they have a hard time getting reasonable contracts, so then they have to pass it off to us. And I can see that with like how Sparrow, has been merged a few times. How in Grand Rapids, they went from Blodgett Hospital to Spectrum to Corwell now, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger. So when we talk about monopolies, it's right here going to be reflected in the cost of having our employees covered with decent benefits and things, because it just keeps going down. So monopolies, I don't think it's just the robber barons from the railroad times and Standard Oil. I think we're getting it now. So, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, Melissa, what else do we have?
That actually concludes my reports.
Thank you. On to item 13, Facilities Management Director. Good morning, Chad.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chad Powers, Facilities Director. Is it okay if I jump around off of the agenda? Can I?
Well, depends. What do you have in mind?
Well, I think first the vehicle purchase is on the list, but I'd like to save that for last if possible. If I can go through the rest of my report, is that okay? Or? Okay. I first wanted to just give a shout out to the grounds crew. Snow removal is pretty timely. Right now, it came a little earlier this year than we normally get. I think Thanksgiving Day, we had a coating of ice that required some attention. And keep in mind that, we have 3 24-hour buildings. So even though it may be after hours for the main courthouse or some of the other buildings, we still need to make sure that those buildings are safe and plowed for those employees that work at 911 or the jail facility or youth facility. So in an event like this, my crew, I'm in constant contact with my lead groundskeeper. It may be 9 o'clock at night, it may be 2 in the morning. We look at the weather and see when it's gonna stop snowing, and then try to get it addressed before the main rush of employees come in the morning. So just wanted to give a little background to how we handle that. And we have 2 full-time groundskeepers. Our maintenance staff is also cross-trained. When we get an event like we did earlier this week with slush and it's a little too much to maintain for the 2, then we'll have the maintenance guys chip in. So, and that'll kind of tie into the vehicles when I get to that at the end.
Chad?
Yeah.
If you'd allow me to interrupt, I'd also want to say thank you and congratulations on the concrete work that was done around the courthouse. I know we took a lot of criticism for doing that at this time, but for those of us that need a smooth sidewalk, I appreciate it greatly, so thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome, and it was overdue. Obviously, we had some accidents, and we don't want that, and that's a good segue to my next part of my report here and projects. As you just mentioned, last month we removed and replaced about 8,000 square feet of sidewalks, walkways, driveway that was in disrepair that needed to be replaced. I mean, it was just unsafe to the point where, like I mentioned, we'd had a couple couple of falls, and it wasn't due to, it was just because the concrete was bad and had trip hazards in it. So, and there's more to come, and we'll pick off areas as we can and as we go along. But want me to stop?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, yes, Commissioner Rock.
No, I just want to piggyback on what you just said, because as someone who's been in the concrete business for many years, did many jobs, the job they did out here was excellent. And I asked Connie, because when I came in and I saw all the salt on it, I go, oh no. And was wondering if it was sealed.
And that's,
So I asked Connie, I said, do you know if they got sealed? And so thank you for doing that. And it's because without it being sealed, that salt would really do some damage.
So I'm going to talk about that. I'm glad you brought it up.
You're
You're
welcome.
You see my list? Did you guys look at it ahead of time? So yeah, the question did come up about sealer, and the sealer. So two parts. So the admixture of concrete had a chemical in it for salt. They make a additive so it's less likely to be damaged by salt. That's in the concrete mixture itself. So when it's poured, it has it in. So the deep penetrating stuff, it doesn't spall and get damaged. Also, the top coat sealer is a product called Salt Guard, which it's a specification, mandatory specification for state of Michigan, Michigan State. Many municipalities specify it in their specs. So it's a top coat that seals, and it has to be reapplied every 3 to 5 years. But it's called Salt Guard, and it significantly reduces the spalling and damage that historically has been a problem with salt. So.
Well, back in the old days, we didn't have this technology, so we had to wait 28 days before the concrete cured before you could put sealer on it. So, yeah. So it's nice to be able to do that right after you pour. It's really convenient.
And agreed, they did a great job. They were in and out. I think we did it in a week, all of it. So they knew that time was of the essence, and how it disrupted the flow of public traffic. And we did it. It was during the week of Veterans Day, so we had a down day in there without the courthouse being open, so we were able to tackle it that week and minimize the impact for the public in courts. So. Also, I mentioned last month we were getting ready to start our jail fire alarm system upgrade. That will complete this week, and I think they're down to final testing today. If it overlaps into Monday, that would be the latest, but I haven't talked to them yet this morning. I've been in here, but I believe they will complete that today. So, and then next up, we have several small internal projects that maintenance staff will be handling, and then I believe Commissioner Moudry asked me about the elevator, so I'm working on an RFP for elevators, and that'll be coming up in the near future. So those are all capital improvement projects that we use the bond funding for, and we're picking those off, and certainly appreciative that we have those funds to handle some of these infrastructure projects that's been deferred for so long. Third on my list here, we have agreements in the principal framework for the USDA and MDHHS lease agreements that we also spoke about last month. We're still ironing out some of the antiquated contract language. I think I gave the example before. I think one of the line items was to clean the ashtrays every night for our custodians. So that dates it back quite a ways. It's been amended, or it's been just addendum, to death since the early '90s. So we're working on that with the controller's office. I don't know if Ben, you want to add anything to that, or?
Yeah, for today, you'll be moving, potentially the USDA would be the one we'd ask, because that does expire at the end of this year. Due to the shutdown at the federal level, though, they're backed up, so they have not gotten us an updated contract. So we would ask, we have an agreement on the cost and how that's broken out, so we'd ask this committee to move that to the full board and we should have a contract back from the feds by then, so that's the intent. So I'm gonna follow up with them today. They said they could not get it to us in time for today's meeting. But that's a good contract right there. The square footage cost on that was like 22, what was it?
250, I believe.
Yeah, so that one was already a really good agreement. The other one is just an FYI. It doesn't expire till next year, so we won't actually bring a contract for consideration until then, but we got the one with the state increased up to $17 per square foot from what it was at before, which was like $7.13. And I think we've mentioned it, we won't belabor it, but they signed that contract and then gave 2 optional renewals that the state could do for 5 years. So it was a 10-year contract with another 10 years. So we've been at that rate for 20 years. So good job modernizing the contract. I think that will be good going forward. We don't ever give a $7 per square foot 20-year contract ever again. So. Yeah.
Commissioner Wright.
MSU Extension has moved out, right?
Today, I believe, is the last day that the staff will occupy on a daily basis. We just met, Claudine and I just met yesterday with Bill, and they'll still have a presence. He'll stop in once a week, once every 2 weeks. He'll have a small spot to touch down with an office there. And yes, they're working on moving out a lot of the stuff that will go to MSU surplus, their belongings, and then they're purging some of the storage areas and so forth. So that is correct. He's still hopeful that they'll be able to gain some momentum and return that 4-H, but that's more to come on that. That's his goal, I think, is to somehow get that funded, but I'll let him talk more about that. But today is the last day that they would occupy that space. And when I met with him, because he's a regional, he has, I think, 10 different counties that he asked that he could touch down there occasionally. I was okay with that. If it becomes a issue with space that we need that for other, then that would be up for the board to decide, what we do with that space as far as going forward. It'll be vacant, though, for the most part, after today.
Am I not remembering it correctly from last month, but weren't we thinking about USDA moving down there in that space?
Conservation District was sharing that space while the shutdown, the government shutdown, the U.S. government was shut down. They share a space in the USDA office, the Eaton Conservation District. So they were using that on a short-term basis. And I haven't had conversations with Rachel if that was something they wanted to look at permanently or not. So they have moved back into their original office after the government reopened.
So USDA isn't moving from where they are on that side of the hallway, right?
We haven't had that discussion. It was just Conservation District.
Just Conservation District, okay. Because they're on the other side of the hall. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what we're doing with the square foot that the county is involved with. Okay, thank you.
And I'll just add, the MSU extension, we've given that space as an in-kind contribution, so we have not billed MSU extension for it. So even when we had all those budget discussions, the county's provided that space at no cost, so as that discussion goes on, it's not gonna be a revenue impact, them moving out, even though we're sad to see them go and that the MSU extension wasn't able to secure funding from some other source or thing through MSU network, but just wanted that to throw that piece out there. It's not a revenue impact.
Comments?
And then finally, we can jump back to the beginning there with the vehicle purchase. And if, Ben, you'd like.
Got to move, USDA agreement. So if you could approve the tentative framework to the full board for a 5-year contract from January 1st, 26 through December 31st, 2030 at $22.50 per square foot.
Do we have a motion? All right. Support? Moved and supported. All right. Any other discussion, comments, questions on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Chad, before you go on to your next one, I want to, this is a comment I was going to make to you in your office. But anyway, twice this winter, I kid you not, twice since I think beginning of November till today, I've confronted two vehicles going the wrong way down the boulevard. I watched one pull out of the jail area here last week. I'm assuming they weren't familiar with the whole setup here, and a little bitty car come, they were in a hurry to get out of here. And the other one was a van that did the same thing. Do we have wrong way signs down there? And if not, do we need to get some?
It happens quite often. In fact, it's from county's office, you can see it quite often, and we often joke about it. But yes, we have the signage up. I wish there was a way to combat that a little better, but I don't. I'm sure you've seen it. If you're around more, you'll see it a lot more.
I had Chad cut back the trees, I think it was last year or the year before, because the leaves were, obscuring it a little bit, and I'm like, maybe that'll help, but no. I will tell you that back in the day, we had deputies that would patrol, they would be around here, our deputies, and there was one that would pull people over because it was so
I would
frustrating.
hope so. The other thing I noticed, and this is as a side to that, but the other thing I noticed is this North Drive, how many of our employees roll through that stop sign at a pretty good clip sometimes.
Three-way stop.
Yeah. Can we tie that to bonuses somehow? I just,
There's a stop sign? No, I'm kidding.
Ben will talk.
I was gonna say that going the wrong way, I don't think all of it's accidental, because you see people pause and look around, and then they gun it. So I do think some of it's premeditated. I don't think it's all accidental.
Tire spikes, I don't know.
Tire spikes, yeah.
Maybe we could.
Okay, well, we won't put that on the capital improvement project list.
Spike strips or something.
Brian, isn't that a city street so they literally can get a real running the stop sign?
I would think so. It is a stop sign.
Yes, both of those are city roads.
So our deputies actually could write them a ticket for running the stop sign. Maybe, Logan, you want to tell the employees in a nice email that's city property and that really is a stop sign.
And Chad is in law enforcement now.
Yeah.
Yeah, my role is expanding here this morning with.
And I'm gonna get you off the hook for that. Let's go on to the next item.
All right, Ben, you want to preface the vehicles, or Melissa? Whoever.
Sure. I think Melissa would be great.
Or I can start, I guess.
I was going to say, so I'll preface it this way. So when we developed our budget, the development of it included proceeds from borrowing, basically indicating that we would continue using our lease program that we have had for at least this next fiscal year. Not all vehicles should be in that program. However, when we developed the budget, there was a vehicle for physical plant, and that was included as a lease. So that's why this is before you. This vehicle was included in the budget to be replaced. However, it did include proceeds. So it does mean that we were intending to lease the vehicle. However, based on Chad's recommendation and administration's and mine, we do not recommend that that's the way to move forward with this particular vehicle because of the use. It is replacing a very old vehicle
I can jump in.
on our fleet, so go ahead.
So, we have three pickups here at the complex, and for snowplows and general use around the complex. I view them more as a piece of equipment than we don't travel a lot. They're generally, and we keep the one we're replacing, as Melissa mentioned, it's a 2000 Dodge. so it's 25 years old. And they have relatively low miles because we don't drive them very far, like the other vehicles in the county that are more for transportation. Ours are more for equipment. Historically, we've purchased those. We also have a 2006 model GMC and a 2008 model Ford. So we're able to keep those a lot longer because of the nature of how we use them here. And it just doesn't make sense to replace our vehicles every 5 years on a lease program. We're able to keep them 20, 25 years. And the other side of it is we do all of our maintenance or our preventative maintenance that we can handle internally, the oil changes, the tires, the belts, hoses, all the stuff that we would be bound by the lease that we would have to outsource. So that was the reason that I'm asking that we could purchase the vehicle. I have the 3 quotes, and that's what's in your packet. And so I've competitively shopped for these, and that's, and if you look, if you spread that cost, that $40,000, $45,000 over the course of 20 to 25 years, it's a relatively low cost for what we get on the purchase, so.
Are we trading in the old vehicle then on this new one?
I don't know that we'll trade it in. We'll probably auction it, or, we'll somehow recoup whatever value we can off of it.
Okay. Any questions for Chad on this? Comments?
Is that an extended cab?
No. Unless you want to ride around with the guy snow plowing. We can order one, but no, it's just a plain, regular cab, work truck.
Well, I seen it said regular, but regular out there on the main road is never one of those.
I can assure you that it's not extended cab.
Well, okay.
Nicole, you got a
I was just curious, did we get quotes from multiple dealerships, or is there a specific?
I think there's 3, yes, I did. And I say multiple, I priced a Ford, so a local Ford dealer, the local Chevrolet dealer, and then another Chevrolet. So comparable, but not the same exact vehicle, but they're, very comparable.
The one is one that's available now. The other 2 have to be ordered.
And that's a good point, Connie, thank you. The first one on the list there.
All righty. And then on top of that, we're going to add equipment and logos and that kind of thing to it?
Correct. And I believe I had 60,000 budgeted. The truck cost 45, and then with the remaining, we would be able to do what we need to do. And the one that I chose there, it is a 25-year model. The other 2 are 26, but it's prepped for the light, for the the light on top, snowplow, heavy duty front end package, and that. So you get a little more value with the year older model, but to me it makes more sense that we don't have to put that extra cost or into it right up front.
And these are all gas, not diesel.
Correct, gas.
All right. Any other questions for Chad?
I will add that if we do decide to move forward with purchasing this vehicle, it will necessitate an additional budget amendment. And administration, I am recommending that we take that and reduce our proceeds from borrowing, which would then increase our fund balance use. So that would be my recommendation if the committee is wanting to move forward with this.
Which is essentially, instead of paying it over a 20-year, 15-year lease period, you're consolidating all those transactions into a year 1 purchase. So that's what it would look like. So instead of 55,000 amortized over a period of time, we're going to do it all in the current year. So that's what Melissa's talking about.
All right, so what do you need us to do? I mean, you've got 3 options here, Chad. Do you want us to pick the one we like best, or should we just trust you in what you're gonna do here?
Well, so the 3, the way they're listed is, I mean, they're all pretty close in price, but I mean, the first one would be the first option, second would be second option, and then third. And that's based on price.
Okay.
And your recommendation?
My recommendation would be the first one, from Shaheen Chevrolet. Yes.
It's got all the equipment we need to start with,
It's prep for the equipment.
right, for the equipment.
Yes.
Anybody have any other comments or questions for Chad? Do we have a motion to move ahead? Okay, moved and supported. Any other discussion or questions? All right, so we're gonna go with the Shaheen Chevy.
All right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right. And then, once you take possession of this, how long before you put the previous vehicle up on the block?
Immediately. I mean, it's not, we're not increasing our fleet size. It'll
Right.
just be a matter of, I'm not real familiar how the auction process works or how we have done it with other stuff, but it would be something we would take one out of the fleet and add the new one.
Okay. Now, how many miles are on that old truck?
I knew you would ask me that, and I don't know off the top of my head, but,
No,
Yeah,
I was, because we sat in on Parks, and I know Parks doesn't want to use truck, but if it doesn't have that many miles on it, and it's useful for something, and we might swap that into place for something that's got a lot more wear and tear and miles on it, that might save us in the long run too.
so the reason, when I look at these, replacements, it gets to the point where it's cost prohibitive. I mean, we've gotten so many having to have so many problems and repairs that it's just time to,
Okay.
to cut ties with it and send it out to pasture.
All right. All right, thank you,
Hey,
Chad.
Brian-
Oh,
Brian?
sorry, Commissioner Wright.
Chad, how long is the warranty good on it? Because you're not gonna hit the mile warranty, you're gonna hit the,
Age.
age year warranty.
I don't know that off the top of my head. I can look into that. I don't know what the warranty, the factory warranty, timeline wise, if that's 3 years or I can get that and let you know. I don't know what that is.
My son just bought a Silverado and paid $6,000 for bumper to bumper. I was not impressed. So I was asking you how long the warranties are.
All right, anything else, Chad?
That concludes my report.
All right,
If there's
thank you,
any
sir.
Questions I
Appreciate
can,
it greatly.
all right, thank you.
All right, next on our list is item number 14, Police Services Contracts Update.
Hey, everybody. So I'll give an update with where we're at with the various police services contracts that we have. We have continued to have discussions with communities that we currently have agreements with, as well as trying to explore ideas around maybe doing a framework for multi-community participation in funding deputies for out-county service for certain communities. So the two that unfortunately we don't have renewals on right now, Windsor, which has been a full-time deputy, and then Oneida, which was an overtime contract. We have met with both boards. We have presented essentially the figures I just handed out. Apologies, I couldn't get it into the packet, but I wanted you guys to be able to just see what we're looking at. So we came up with a cost methodology for communities that are contracting a deputy, but not a big enough contract that they have to hire their own sergeants or command staff to manage it. And the threshold we came up with was each deputy is a 21% cost of the price of a sergeant. It's the command surcharge, so we have our 15%, and then that deputy has a 21% to cover the command expenses for managing that, which is in line with what we would anticipate based on the Delta contract. We proposed the same upfront fee at the same percentage that Delta did when they did 2 million and we did 1 million upfront. Same carbon copy of what we did with Delta, but at a smaller scale for the other communities. We presented this. Windsor Township almost made a decision, but I think they moved it one more month because they're waiting to hear back from, I believe, Eaton Rapids Police Department, who might be bidding as potentially taking over the one deputy for them. So we should hopefully have a final answer from them next month that we can present back. Oneida can't afford a full one, but they are interested in doing like a mutual contract if we can get enough communities together. I know the Sheriff's Department has been exploring interest with different supervisors and township officials who have expressed interest. I know yesterday we met with the sheriff and Commissioner Shaver to talk about what that could look like, say, for a geographic quadrant of the county, or perhaps, having 8 townships team up to get a handful of officers. So we're gonna try to compile that. This is a snapshot of kind of what a 2-deputy model looks like. And then you just have to figure out if you're gonna divide up the cost by the portion of the FTE. So if you're getting 10 hours of a deputy a week, 25% of the cost of that FTE. Or would you make it by SEV for the communities that participate, so it's kind of coming off of taxable value? So those would be things we would land on as we have negotiations with communities. So the sheriff is preparing to send a letter notifying Windsor and Oneida that services will end on December 31st, but we're committed to continuing the work to see if we can find a path forward in the new year. I'm gonna put one of these together for Waverly. They give them a heads up. They have a contract through June, but important for them to start evaluating and assessing if they can continue to move forward with the new costs. Delta, in that instance, committed to providing command services, so Waverly won't pay that 21% command surcharge because they'll get that from Delta. And then we've had, I believe the sheriff and chief deputy met with Maple Valley's superintendent, and we have been corresponding via email, providing same information as you see here. And I am planning on going to a meeting, I want to say January 5th, so I might miss that first board meeting where you all pick the committee schedule, but I'll be presenting and answering questions that the school board may have about renewing or setting up a school resource officer contract with the county. I think that's where we're at. If your constituents or your townships are interested, it's about $66,000 for a deputy, for 25% of a deputy. So if different communities wanted to come together and pool resources, there is an appetite out there for it. That's kind of the dollar amount. It's a little bit more in year 1 because we do that contribution to MERS, but by contributing money up front, in the long run, we're bringing down the cost for everybody. We're planning these to reconcile back at the end of the year, so we're working through that. One of the questions we just got is, if a contract isn't staffed fully, is there a way we can have a gradual step up? So, you have a contract for up to 4 deputies, but in the year and a half it takes you to get 3 in there, can you do a staggered where you're billing as you go? And so it's a little different with Delta. We already had such a large sum of officers there, and we were able to pull some from the county once we made our budget adjustments. So those are things I think we can explore as we have these discussions with communities.
So if a township wanted 24/7 coverage, that would require 4 deputies per township.
I think at the township level, you could probably do it with less, especially if they're partnering together, if that makes
But I mean, if
yeah.
one township wanted 24/7 road patrol coverage in that township,
Probably 4, maybe 5. That'd be a good question for the sheriff, but I would say probably at least 4. What would probably make a better use of resources would be 4 townships,
well,
same.
I understand that.
But then your 4 could cover that whole geographic
Right.
area really
And
well.
that would be the smart way to do it.
It really would.
But for an individual township, if they wanted 24/7 coverage on their own, they're looking at 4 deputies.
Yeah.
And all the related equipment, staff, whatever it takes to complement that.
Yeah, and they're pretty close, so we set it to where if you, pretty much for every 5 deputies, you need a sergeant. So I think if a community was looking at that level of staffing, you'd probably be like, all right, well, maybe it's 3 and a sergeant or something, you know what I mean? If you're looking for like dedicated command and control, complete ecosystem.
Okay. So that would make that township independent of any other contract we have in the county for road patrol then, correct?
Yeah,
They would
that-
have their own individual contract.
That would be essentially like a micro delta, the smallest scale where it's a complete ecosystem.
Okay, so they wouldn't need a jail, wouldn't need a sheriff, but they need everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We'd still provide that other stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as the cost involved, that would not be a consideration, so. Okay, because I've been asked that question. So this is pretty much now the generic template that we're gonna use?
It is, and I have Windsor as 1.25 of an FTE, and then Oneida is 0.25, but Windsor did not commit to picking up any extra. They just wanted to know what it looked like, so that's why I put it together like that. So I'm hopeful we can at least do one deputy in the new year with them. Just depends on what the Windsor Township Board chooses to do in the new year.
Commissioner Mott.
On that note, on this model, so let's say we want to create a model where we get most of the county covered. Would it be better to have regions of townships together, like regions, if to do this model, if they could, so that they've had road patrol? I'm floating it out there. I'm just thinking as we're talking.
Yeah, I would agree. I would absolutely. So you could break it into quadrants, right? So you could have like the 4 all team up, and then you're maximizing the use of command in the center, and then you'd have deputies that are functioning here, and they'd have the mutual aid coverage still. So if there was an issue in Olivet, this quadrant can still support over here, but you're minimizing the amount of time it takes for response times on calls, because if each quadrant had a designated deputy, you're cutting down on the drive time for them to get from, Diamonddale all the way over, which is with MSP kind of what you're dealing with, especially in the further reaches of the county. You have to wait. And MSP could be in Ingham County or Clinton County because of the way those positions work. They're responding from wherever they're at in the 3 county coverage. But that's a good way to, I would agree.
Okay.
Commissioner Wright.
So when we're looking at this for command, sergeant, lieutenants, whatever, don't we have right now some command on staff here at the county that would be covering some of those deputies?
Yep, we retained one sergeant position to be the contract, like the go-to for contracts. It's currently vacant right now because they just haven't had an internal promotion to fill it. And I think part of it was, let's get the contracts in line, and then, so Lieutenant Dahlgren's done a great job kind of stepping in to bridge that in the interim until we know whether or not we have the contracts to support that. But to your point, we've already budgeted for that sergeant, so every contract we secure for a deputy just
Is in
stabilizes.
these quotes, right?
21% of that's now funded from an outside source.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Shaver.
First of all, thank you, Benton County, for all of your work that you guys have been doing behind the scenes on trying to help restore deputy coverage, road patrol coverage to the rest of the county. I think we can be, somewhat hopeful in the way that I see some of the local governments working together in planning and zoning, et cetera. I just wanted to highlight that, geographical regions in the county working together, much like Commissioner Mott referenced, is important because although you can do interlocal agreements across the county and kind of skip over townships and municipalities with zoning and it not affect, the resources and coverage, so to speak, that our citizens would be receiving, with policing and first responders, it's important that it's close. And so I'm thankful for the sheriff's work that he's been putting into that, and I give him kudos for that. And I'm hopeful that that our local townships and villages and cities that need coverage can work together cooperatively to be able to do that. And so, if people are watching this and they have questions about that, I think that reach out to your township officials and your villages that don't have coverage at this point. And don't ask them why they're not doing anything. Just ask them, to please start to have a conversation, because I think we're close to that point. Conversations have already started, but we've got some really good information that I think is going to lead down the path of being able to restore some of what we had hoped to maintain. And so I think we should be hopeful. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It is going to cost money. And but I think the future of Eaton County when it comes to having policing can get better and better from the bleak view that some people have on it today. And so just wanted to say that. Let's work together. Let's get things done. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Is there any action we need to take on this?
Nope, this was just an update,
Informative.
FYI.
And so I'm assuming at some point when we solidify this proposal, it will then be sent out to the general law townships or all the townships?
Yeah, I think so. I know for District 1, there was discussions about putting something together that's just for that, but I think if there's the appetite to present kind of a comprehensive out-county model, we could do that too. Like, here's what it looks like quadrants, here's what it would look like to have like a comprehensive out-county model.
I think that would be
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, moving along. Are you all set with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Item number 15, 25-26 budget amendments.
All right, I guess I will go through our budget amendments this month. So right now, there is one budget amendment that is listed in your packet. We did receive word from the state that the RAP program was closed when they passed the budget. So they paid us through October's inmates that were housed, and then that program was completely closed. So that means that we are not going to receive as much revenue as we were originally indicating, and now we need to account for that. Based on discussions with the chief deputy, he is in favor of reducing wages and fringes, knowing that they have some open positions. Not that they would completely eliminate those positions from the budget, but knowing that they may delay filling the positions in order to accommodate the reduced revenue.
Okay, so our,
Before we go on, there is another budget amendment that then needs to be added. The budget amendment for Chad's vehicle will be added to this, as well as the budget amendment for the sheriff for his equipment. So in order to do that, the Axon contract, we will need to increase the budget for proceeds from borrowing as well as capitalized computer costs, because this ends up being a long-term contract which needs to be capitalized under our GASB requirements. It will be a substantial expense and revenue, but it is offset 100%, so it is a increase to revenue and expenses at the same rate. It ends up being approximately $1.6 million, because that is the total cost of the contract. So that is a large change. But it would be split out based on the actual unit of government as it was presented in the documentation.
So it's budget neutral, and the amount that's actually budgeted for the expense, the annual expense, is covered. That does not need to increase.
any questions? Commissioner Wright?
So if we're not going to have the RAP program from the state, are we going to close down different areas in the jail? Because we won't be taking in those extra
So
inmates?
it'd be great if it was that simple, but it's not. So that is something that we talked about during the budget process. We also, in making reductions, we also talked about it when this contract, we found out that it was we were losing it. They were, I believe, 28, 29 inmates that were populating that. But you have to remember, the inmates are segregated in various ways. So when the expansion was done with the jail, the reason for the expansion was we were going to have a lot of inmates coming in. That did not happen, but to the extent that they thought it would. But the jail was opened up. And then the population, and I don't want to speak too much, so they'll correct me over in the Sheriff's Department as soon as I'm done here, but they're segregated differently. So if you move, let's just say you have minimum, medium security, and then you have your female and male section. So they have to make sure that they are segregating those correctly. And the way that it's open now, unless we were to actually modify the facility, they wouldn't be able to just close down a wing. So there would be an expense for us to modify that. The concern that I would have, and I think I talked about this or touched on it, the Sheriff's Department, over the course of several years, has had audits, required audits that they have every year for MDOC. They come in and they look at the facilities and they make sure they pass inspection. One of the things they recommend, and I'm not going to say that they're 100% accurate, obviously, but they recommend that staffing is increased just because of safety, security of both the inmates and the deputies. But to say or think that we could reduce the staffing model with just losing 29 inmates is not realistic, and it's not safe for the corrections deputies that are dealing with the housed individuals. So I just want to be clear. I would imagine the sheriff would stand up here and tell you, I can't lose staffing for that. And we have cut in the past staff in the jail. So I just want to make sure that I speak for that on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, because it is a safety and security risk.
Mr. Shaver.
Thank you. Is there opportunities that you're aware of for us, and I think this would be the sheriff that would do it, but is there opportunities for more contracts for lease space for the beds?
Yeah, I mean, that comes up all the time. There are different opportunities, and, it's possible the state could reinstate the program. That's possible next year. It's just not going to happen this year. There are other jails, too, just like we have in the youth facility, that can house, overcrowding. We did talk to another county that is having that issue, and the sheriff is aware of that. And they will be reaching out. They just obviously want a good rate. They're not going to want to send somebody, but we're right next door to some of the counties that could benefit from our housing.
Is that the sheriff's department responsibility then to fund or, explore that and whether they would do it or not?
Yeah, the sheriff would have to agree to it, his jail. The board would agree to housing additional inmates. You'd have to look at the fact that staffing, again, if they needed additional staff, you also would want to make sure that the board understands the rate that's coming in for housing those. But we've done this over the past years. It would go through public safety, basically, but it is up to the sheriff.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? So, what do we need to do here then?
It's just approve,
We added to what our written proposal was, correct?
Yes, we
Or
did.
do we need to reword that, or just, is everybody good?
You could move it as amended.
Okay. So is everybody okay with that? All right, if you're okay with it, then we need a motion. Okay. Okay, moved and supported. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right. Anything else, Melissa?
No, sir.
All right. Moving to item number 16, policy updates.
Yes, that is me right here. Privacy policy, which I discussed at last month's meeting. It is in your packet, and so what this is, in general, it's a standard practice, basically ensures compliance with data protection laws and protects our intellectual property mainly. We do currently have a disclaimer and simple copyright notice on our website. This is more robust and covers more of what we're doing because we are taking in personal information from folks, so it covers us liability-wise, make sure that we're not endorsing any external links or folks that share our links. That's not an endorsement from us that they are a reliable source. Legal notices versus casual communications, again, protects our intellectual property and also cookie usage, which is how we collect data, basically. And so I offer this up as, this would go to the full board if this policy was moved for review.
Any questions?
Support.
Supported? Any other discussion, comments, Questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, so it's just, we've just forwarded this to the full board at this point.
Yes.
All right. Item 17, miscellaneous. We added an item to our miscellaneous, and I think Commissioner Barber is ready to address that addition.
Yes, since Mears has been in the news lately and our employees, their retirements through Mears, I've had several calls from some of my constituents that are retirees from the county, and they are concerned about our funding and their retirement checks. So I'm asking for the administration to speak upon that,
So,
their concerns.
yeah, the MERS has lost money, so it's just like losing money in an investment. So they have $20 billion within their funds, and they lost 10 million. There's a lawsuit, they could lose more. Essentially, what this would be, it's not an impact to a retiree, it's an impact to the county to continue to fund the pension. So the retirees have a protected pension. You would have to go, the county would have to go bankrupt, as we've talked about before, right? For anything to be done pension-wise, an emergency manager, whatever. So the pensions are protected, but it means that the county, if there's a loss enough that comes back on the county's investments of their pension, that we would have to pay more money. So we get a step ahead because we're putting more money in. We could take a step back when they lose investments, or in this case, investments and any type of liability.
It was 100 million, sorry. You'd said
Oh, I'm
10.
sorry.
No, you're good. I just didn't want people to.
10 million, thank you.
Yep. And the other thing is, like, that loss doesn't exist in a vacuum. MERS manages a portfolio of $12.7 billion. So a $100,000 loss is like 0.79%. Keep in mind, doesn't exist in a vacuum. So if MERS is getting 10% on another pool of investments, there's going to be a shakeout. So every year with investments, for those who manage a 401k or any type of market analysis, you have some stocks and some investments that go way up and then some that go way down. We will continue to monitor it. I would say the piece that we're interested in is MERS has a fiduciary obligation to make like sound decisions and legal decisions to manage those funds. And so from that standpoint, if the litigation over the course comes out that there's like a sustained concern, then I think communities like Eaton County could keep an eye on that and just make sure that that obligation was met throughout the process. But I'd say it's way too early to tell. You've got Party A suing Party B, who's suing Party C, and it's like the Spider-Man meme where everybody's pointing fingers at each other, you know? So we'll keep an eye on it. I'm confident it's not gonna have a significant effect on our evaluations, and we'll make sure that everything was done according to the legal obligation. And if not, then that's discussions we can have in the future. And we probably won't be the only community keeping an eye on it. Yep.
Commissioner Haskell.
If we're done with the MERS conversation, I do have one other item I'd like to bring up in miscellaneous if possible.
Anybody have any questions about MERS? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay. I want to thank Commissioner Shaver for bringing this to my attention during the break. It appears that the 5 million that was given to, not given, but appropriated to Eaton County for the bank strain was also included into the clawbacks. So are we on the hook for that 5 million? Are the residents on the hook? Like,
So-
how does this work?
The residents would be on the hook, as well as the county's share that was reduced using that 5 million for our at-large payment. The real difficult piece to this is they will have to go out and bond again for the drainage district. So we're gonna start from scratch with that 5 million. Melissa, you said that, how much have we brought in right now?
So as of right now, we have had 1.25 million that was allocated originally, or dispersed originally. Total expenses, I believe, most of the 5 million is exhausted.
So it's been exhausted, but that doesn't mean that it's on the county's books. It means that they would have to go out and re-bond for that.
So the 5 million that was appropriated is like, it's not sitting in an account with the county, right? It's been spent,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Not,
Right.
we have not received the reimbursement for
Yeah,
it.
so as in
But
the
we
money
rec-
may have been spent.
Yes,
We have not submitted to the state. They gave a 1.25 upfront.
yes.
And then we submit for reimbursement on the rest.
Okay.
And I would clarify one thing, there was an effort to try to get an additional appropriation to assist just the homeowners in the district. At this time, I don't know if we're talking the original 5 million that we built our bonding around or those efforts. So we still have to verify where things are at.
Okay, so add it to the letter.
Well, yeah, and I would add to, per some of the sources we're talking about, it was the 5 million that they're looking at right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, and I through a contact as well, the state budget office is supposedly going to send out an updated list as soon as today. I don't know for sure, though.
And I would note one other thing that people may not care about, but Melissa does, so I'm going to speak for her. The accounting nightmare of doing what we did, which was great for residents, has been significant. And trying to navigate that and looking at, it's unbelievable the amount of work that Melissa has put into it and then verified with another accounting firm. Our auditors will go through that as well. So now we have to undo all of that if that is lost.
Our accounting team actually said that I win the award for the most complicated project on this because they have never seen anything quite this complicated with as many funding sources. So I'm a little concerned, so I will be keeping an eye on this one.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just add on to that as well. I mean, when we go to rebond this and go back out to the constituents, this is some of the more economically vulnerable neighborhoods in Delta Township. So this is huge for them. And in addition to that, now it makes government in general look absolutely foolish to go back and say like, hey, here's this really piece of bad news that you have, and then months later say, hey, yeah, it's even worse now.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Shaver.
I think it's just important within communication that all of this is still developing. I'll reiterate that all but 2 of the people that voted on this didn't even know what the content of what they were voting on was. And so I think it should create concern for the county and the people that are watching this, but I don't think it should create panic because nothing's done. And we are very thankful for all the work that was done, for instance, with the grant that happened for the intercounty drain and the firefighters. And, you know, we could talk about this piece by piece, but all of this is still unfolding. I think that to reiterate, that's why we need to advocate, because so much good work has been done across the county, not just from Eaton County government, but across the county. And if it was left undone, to Commissioner Haskell's comment about this looking bad for government, it does. But this is also an opportunity for this to look good for government, because we can work hard for the people that represent us and do the right thing across party lines, and do our best to make things happen in the right way as they should for the people of Eaton County. So I just want to reiterate, this should create concern. People should call their elected officials and express their thoughts to them, but it should not create panic, because it would be my opinion and understanding today that nobody understands what concrete is when it comes to any of these terms. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, that was cheerful news. Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on to item number 18, county bills. Should we pay our bills? Moved and supported. Any discussion on anything concerning the bills? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? All right. Item number 19, Controller Administrator Evaluation. In your packet, you'll see a document that I signed, and I want to read just a brief portion of that, and then I will hand this over to Ben. This is the third year of Connie Sobey, and it doesn't seem like it's been that long, Connie. But I'm sure to you, it seems like it's been tenfold. But this is the third year of Connie Sobey holding the position of Eaton County Controller Administrator. For those who don't know or do not know, Ms. Sobey works under an employment contract, which is a standard practice for the public sector chief executive recruitment. One of the important changes of this body is to perform an annual review of our chief executive's performance. This is important because our chief executive must know if she is doing, generically, if they are doing a good job on delivering and executing the vision of Eaton County Board of Commissioners, the board. If the board is not satisfied or feels they have cause against their chief executive, these reviews are important for memorializing such concerns. As the chair of Ways and Means, I work closely with Ms. Sobey on all financial and personnel matters. For this evaluation, I use a scale of 1 to 5, and there's a table there you can see, for an outline. In my opinion, Ms. Sobey's performance over the past year has been exemplary and is measured to the top of the 5-point scale. And beyond that, I want to thank Connie personally. This has taken a personal toll on everybody in our complex. And we've seen positions eliminated, but I will say that Connie has carried a very large burden on her shoulders, and I want to thank you for taking that task on and making it easier for us as commissioners to deal with. And it's not been easy by any stretch. And we still see the comments come in, and we're all crooks and thieves, and we don't know what we're doing. But I can't say enough about Connie's performance, as well as the rest of the controller's office and the staff here at the county, that they just amaze me. So that being said, Ben, if you don't mind.
So part of the evaluation methodology we did this year, Chair Drosha asked me to do an internal pulse of how folks felt Connie was doing on the job as the controller administrator. So, this is like new territory for us as an organization. Connie's the first controller to work under a contract, which is standard for chief executive officers for municipalities, for them to have agreements. And then within that, to really formalize these annual reviews. Not the case today, but there are times where locals have difficult decisions they have to make and sometimes have to separate from their chief executive. And if you don't have a trail saying you're deficient here and here and here, it can create liability for an organization. We're not there today, but generally the framework you all build for the future is that. So if you need to protect the county, you can do that. So in today's evaluation, we really focused on communication, changing culture, vision for the future, and then succession planning. So the next is a renewal of the contract, which Jim will be presenting in a moment. So succession planning around that. If Connie is giving us another year of her life, what does that look like for getting ready to flip the switch so that organizationally, department heads, elected officials, and the county continues to take off without a hitch, right? And so we have a year to put that together and try to get as much institutional knowledge as Connie's able to impart to staff in the controller's office and to other officials. So I will say briefly, the communication has been a big piece, not just forming a communications department, which allows for external and internal communication, but taking the time to communicate with staff. And that's part of the changing culture. There were a lot of times for those on the receiving end, you'd get an email from Connie at Friday at like 9 o'clock at night saying, hang in there, this is what we're doing with the budget. Don't feel lost. And this was to all county users. So she's reaching out to the people that empty our trash cans, to the people that restrain folks in the jail that are getting violent, to our folks on the road and our central dispatchers. And taking the time to do that, not everybody does that, and it's not a criticism on people that don't do it, but I can tell you it was a big, people saw it, people felt it, and it made going through that difficult budget process a lot better, and I can't say that enough. Part of the changing culture, too, has been empowering directors, which, for those who weren't here, back in the day, it used to be the controller would focalize and everything ran through the controller to these meetings. Very rarely you'd have department heads come in and speak, and rarely the commissioners could have direct line of questioning with elected officials. That was a priority when Jim initially helped negotiate that initial contract, that these were things that wanted to be seen, and Connie has helped deliver. Vision for the future, it's been a rough road, but we've had visions and we've pursued them, and they weren't all successful, but we continue to persevere, and under that leadership, Connie received really high marks from everybody about where they felt the stability of the county was on January 1st of this year and where it is today. And yeah, so I believe you ended with a recommendation for renewing of the contract. And I think that's probably a great segue.
Commissioner Mott.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with everything both of you just said. I want to come to the committee with a proposal. And before I do, I just want to say thank you for all your dedication. You exceeded my expectations when we did the interview. I was looking for some change, but I had no idea that it would happen so quickly and so efficiently. Without a good leader, I don't care what it is, whether it's military, business, government, you're going to struggle. And we have been very, very fortunate to have Connie. We've probably gone through probably one of the toughest budget cycles ever. Obviously, none of us have been here forever, but I can't imagine that any other board has had to go through what we had to go through. And to do that, you have to have someone that can navigate it. She's been able to not only communicate to us well, but also to the staff and department heads, and creating the department heads leadership meeting. I mean, that's crucial. Obviously, we have longer meetings because of it, but that's fine. I don't think for those of us who have been on this board for a while and had different controllers, I think we can appreciate it maybe a little more, because this is something we should have had all along. So I am suggesting or proposing to this board that we give Connie a $20,000 bonus. And I think it's warranted. If you look over across at other comparable counties, we are short in what we pay, roughly around $20,000. Some are more, some are a little less, but even smaller counties will pay more. That's just 1 year. In my opinion, she has saved us a lot of money, because there should have been another person in that office. There should have been an accountant in that office. Connie took that role. We've been getting a 2-for-1 for quite a while. And so in my opinion, this is overdue. And in some ways, personally, I feel guilty that she's not being compensated what she deserves. But I think this is a good thing for us to do for her, for the service she's provided. And also, I know there, and you can correct me, Ben, but I think there's a longevity limit of 35 years as far as the pay goes. And Connie, you'll be here, what, 38 years, right? At the end of this year cycle, yeah. So I think if it's not a lot, but I think it's a good gesture to make that to the end of your term. And I think it's around $300. I think Ben and I have been talking, and just for the record, Connie she didn't ask for any of this. And if you know her, you probably expect that she wouldn't. But the county has really benefited from her experience. I think she has been in every department in this complex for her whole life, and I don't think there is anybody that could have guided us as well through this process. And so we're very, very grateful that you have decided to stay on another year, because I think there is some unfinished business that we need to tackle, and that's just part of her dedication to us and the county and the succession plan going forward. So we appreciate that. And in fact, the reason she's sitting in this chair, one of the major reasons, is a former commissioner who's in the audience brought it to her attention or planted the seed in her brain to run for this or go for this position. So we appreciate former Commissioner Barbara Rogers for having that conversation with her. So, so that is what I'm proposing to this committee, and I hope everyone else would see it the same way.
All right, thank you, Chairman Mott. Any questions, comments? Oh, I thought I saw you going for the microphone. No. Okay, so in that, to that end, what's the next step, Ben?
So next
What's the
step-
process? That's what
Next
I'd like-
step would be to approve this proposal to the full board, and then it will be taken up at the full board.
All right, I would move that.
Support.
Moved and support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposition? Thank you, everyone.
Could I speak?
You certainly may.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you for all the support. You've done a great job. The board has done a great job over the last year navigating it. That wasn't all on my office to get that going. You had to do a lot of work and you had to meet with your constituents, so you've done a great job. But I do want to ask, I know that Chairman DeRocha wrote the my evaluation, but I would like for the commissioners to also give me any feedback. If there's something that you want me to change over this next year, if there's anything that, priorities that you have that administration can work on, I'd like to do that. So just provide that feedback at any time to me, it would be great. Thank you.
All right. This employment agreement, do we need to do anything with this at this moment?
Nope, I think you just moved it to the full board, so.
The entire package. Okay, very good.
Yeah, I mean, most of it was very general cleanup and just fine tuning, and then authorizing the chairman to sign a $20,000 base bonus in the case of retirement over the duration of the contract. And then the modification to the longevity piece.
I can remember, and this is not a rabbit trail, I'll make this brief, but I can remember as a freshman commissioner seated here, and I won't point fingers at anyone in particular, but I thought, how come we don't have that information? Why aren't we being told that? And now, the change is so dramatic because since Connie took over, we are flooded with information, almost to the point with, we sit there and say, how do I disseminate this? And I've had meetings with Connie, and I've had meetings with the whole staff, and just, the information we have now is just phenomenal, and the lines of communication are just phenomenal, and I so appreciate that, because now I can actually go to my township meetings and talk to constituents, and say, yeah, this is what we know. Not, well, I'll try to get that information for you. So it just, I so appreciate that. So anyway, off my soapbox. So we've covered items 19 and 20 now. So we are on to item number 21, which is limited public comment. Anyone in the public still remaining would like to speak? All right, I see no movement. So at that point, we are on to item 22, which is adjournment. And we will see you next year.
No, you won't. You'll see us at the